What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here live for another NFL weekly review. This is your review for week number 3 of the 2022 NFL season. In this review, I break down all the latest in the NFL, my thoughts, my raw opinions on every game, every matchup, every important thing going on in the NFL, and I break down every important matchup from this past Sunday, Monday, and more. If you want to show support, you can do it in a couple different ways. First, you can spike the like button. You can also, once you've done that, spike the notification bell. And you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more NFL weekly reviews just like this. This show is called The Bottom Line. And it's called The Bottom Line because I lay it down. It's the bottom line. I give you my opinion, unfiltered, here on the show for every game and every team. Let's say hello to the people in the chat before we get to our Monday Night Football review and recap. What's going on, Rodriguez in the chat? What's going on, Harley Quinn, who says Gronk Spike? Lenny B says, if Mitch doesn't mention my Lamar MVP pick before the season, I'm blaming McDaniels for something again. Jamari says, what's good, Mitch? What's going on, Jamari? A staple in the Discord, BLV Discord. Link is in the description if you want to join that community and join the BLV community in the Discord. Jake says, hope you're doing good, bro. What's up, Jake? M Baller says, Tua is that dude. Kendrick Bourne says, Mac Jones is the GOAT. Steeler Nation says Daniel Jones needs out of the NFL. I disagree with that take. We'll get to that in a second. Odd Big King says, what's up? Jake Hedge says, what does the V stand for? View. Odd Big King says, my first live review of the season. Absolutely love it. We've changed it to Monday night, by the way. Monday after Monday Night Football, because I want to give it to you guys fresh right away after Monday Night Football, and then I can get clips out throughout the week. Lenny's actually going to be helping with some of the shorts and editing that stuff, so shout out to Lenny. Leo says Tuanon. Hector says, sup, Mitch? What's going on, Hector? Nice to see you all in the chat. Thank you guys for joining. Let's get to the show, all right? Let's get to the show. Let's waste no more time. Gronk, spike the like button, subscribe. Let's go. Okay. So, let's begin with a State of the Union address. Okay, I understand. Many of you guys have subscribed. Many of you guys that watch my videos watch it for my betting content. And this past week on the BLV, I'm not going to hide, I was terrible this week. I was absolutely dreadful. I was atrocious. I was garbage. I was steaming hot crap, okay? That's what I was. I will be better. I will be better on my best bets. It was a bad week this week. I will be better. We're getting back to the basics this week. We've got to come out with a better game plan next week. I think we've got to get back to establishing the run. Obviously, we have to protect the football better if we're going to have success betting on the NFL. We definitely need to play complementary football. Offense, defense, special teams, all three phases have to be clicking in order for success on the best bets. We just have to trust our techniques. We have to get back to fundamentals. and we will be successful this year on the best bets. So I wanted to give you guys that quick State of the Union because it has not been good this year. It has not been above 500 so far. I've been struggling, and I got to own up to that because I know a lot of you guys count on me for it. So I am sorry. We will get back to our fundamentals, and we will be successful. Wanted to throw that out there. Okay? Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football, we had the New York G-Men. The G-Men. The Giants with their whiteout. Their white out. Everybody was wearing white in the crowd. It was like a Winnipeg Jets playoff game with the whiteout in the stands. It was a huge game for the Giants, for Giants fans, for New York, because for the first time in a long time, the Giants are actually winning football games. They were 2-0 to start the year, which hasn't happened since, I don't know, a long time ago. The Dallas Cowboys, on the other hand, are starting their backup quarterback in Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush went into New York, the Big Apple, and he took a bite right out of that apple, and he shut up all the G-Men fans. The Dallas Cowboys win the game. It was close at the end. It was close. The Giants had another opportunity to come down and score and tie the game and force overtime, which I was actually hoping to see. But it didn't end up happening. Now, this game felt like a high-scoring game that was disguised as a low-scoring game. And what I mean by that is, felt like the offenses were moving the ball. It felt like the offenses were having success. But they weren't scoring that many points. And it felt like every time they had a drive, they constantly stalled out after the 50-yard line. Right at the 45-yard line, they stalled out. So I want to give a shout out to the greatest kicker in NFL history for helping me win my fantasy matchup this week, Graham Gano, for hitting multiple field goals and scoring 15 points for the dub tonight. I needed 13 points, and he came through with 15. So shout out to him. Shout out to Saquon Barkley for looking back once again. Ultra, the hater that he is. The Saquon hater. Ultra even said, wow, I think Saquon might be the best running back in the NFL. So Saquon shutting up the haters out there. Looking good once again. Just looking explosive, man. It was cool to see that. DeMarcus Lawrence shutting up haters as well. Everybody's been talking about Micah Parsons, but DeMarcus Lawrence came through with 3 sacks in this game. And Daniel Jones was pressured more times in this game than he's ever been pressured in a single game. Now, I think some of that had to do with the amount of passing attempts that the Giants had in the game. They passed the ball a lot. They did not run the ball as much as they typically do with Saquon and this backfield. They really passed the football a lot in neutral script, really. Because they weren't down for much of the game. It was just the last 10 minutes where they found themselves down by 10 points. But I came away from this game and I'm not too surprised by the result. I think a lot of people expected the Cowboys to win, but it was an either way type of game, and it was for much of the day. I thought the reffing was kind of subpar in this game. I think the reffing has been okay this year, actually. But this game, there were a couple calls, especially against the Giants. They seemed to get some bad calls in this game, like the Sterling Shepard OPI that I didn't really think was a penalty. That didn't go their way at home, which is rare. But the thing that I took away from the game really had nothing to do with the Giants. I think the Giants are a nice story. I think they're going to be an entertaining team to watch. They are a rebuilding team. I think they're progressing. I think they're going in the right direction. But the biggest story to me is that even win or lose here, the Dallas Cowboys look like a team that in this NFC could once again be a playoff team. And I want to right now, after just 3 weeks, I want to kind of apologize to Cowboys fans because, yes, they had a tough week 1, but they bounced back from that game big time. The last 2 weeks, they've played mistake-free football. The last 2 weeks, their offensive line has played a lot better. Their defense has been on fire. And that defense, man, looks like one of the top 5 units in the NFL right now, both in terms of their pass rush, their pass defense as a whole, the good play calling and scheme from Dan Quinn, and even their run defense has been better since week 1. I think that the Cowboys defense has given them a shot in every game they've played this year, including the Bucs game. And I look at this team for Dallas right now, and I think if they can get Dak back at a reasonable rate, like week 6, week 7, I think the Dallas Cowboys can make the playoffs this year as a wild card. I look at the rest of the NFC, and I didn't pick Dallas to make the playoffs. I picked them to finish as the top team outside of the playoffs, and I had New Orleans in the playoffs. And right now, New Orleans is 1-2 with their starting quarterback, and the Dallas Cowboys are 2-1 without their starting quarterback. And Dak Prescott's a lot better than Jameis Winston. So right now, it looks like I was wrong about Dallas. It looks like Dallas is going to be good enough this year. They've kind of figured things out in terms of their protection up front. Cooper Rush is doing a phenomenal job executing the offense. He's making all the right reads, all the right throws. He's not making mistakes. They've got a pretty solid running game led by Tony Pollard right now, who they continuously are giving more reps and more play than Zeke now. And he's taking over that backfield. CeeDee Lamb stepped up big time this week. He had a good game last week, but he stepped up huge last week. He had that one-handed touchdown catch. He did drop a pass here tonight on Monday Night Football, but he had a huge game. I think they're finding complementary options, right? Dalton Schultz didn't play tonight, but Noah Brown is seemingly a number 3 option once Michael Gallup comes back that I think is good enough to get it done. It doesn't appear that Jalen Tolbert will be in that mix, but if you add everything up right now, an offensive line that looks like it's getting better with more time together and more chemistry, pretty good backfield, Dalton Schultz at tight end, Noah Brown at wide receiver 3, Michael Gallup at wide receiver 2, and CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 1. That's an offense that's maybe not as dynamic, maybe not as stellar as last year, but it's still quality enough when you pair it with a really good defense that's playing right now as good as anybody not named the Bucs or the Niners, really. So I think the Cowboys defense has changed my opinion of this team because I thought they would be solid this year on defense. I thought they would regress on defense. But the fact of the matter is that the Cowboys defense has actually gotten a lot better from last year. And it's not in the way that we expected, right? Last year, this was a pretty good defense, but it was largely because of turnovers. This year, they're not getting nearly as many turnovers, but they're just playing fundamentally sound football, making stops, creating pressure, getting sacks. And that makes this Dallas Cowboys defense one to be feared, and I think one that can carry this team back to the playoffs this year as, I believe, a wild card team. I don't think they're better than the Eagles. We'll get to the Eagles later, and they will have a chance to prove themselves against the Eagles. But I think the Cowboys look like a playoff team right now once they get Dak Prescott back. I'm not saying if Cooper Rush is the starter for the rest of the year, they're going to make it. But once Dak comes back, I think they'll be pretty good. Okay? I also want to credit the Giants coaching staff. I think Brian Daboll, Don Martindale, Kafka, who calls the plays offensively, I think all 3 of these men deserve praise for what they've been able to do so far with the Giants. An undermanned Giants team, a not very talented Giants team. They're making them competitive week in and week out, and they're playing down to the wire football games. So credit to those guys. I thought that Daniel Jones played a good football game today. I thought Daniel Jones made a number of throws. The one that he made off his back foot towards the right sideline near the end of the fourth quarter was an absolute phenomenal throw. I thought he made a number of scrambles, a number of plays where he extended the play and made throws, even that were called back. I thought Daniel Jones really showed his toughness. He showed his testicles. He showed an ability to stay in the pocket and make throws, man. I thought Daniel Jones played a really good football game. I think Daniel Jones is a guy that you can win with in the league. I think he's a guy you can get to the playoffs with. Am I saying he's a guy that's going to win you a Super Bowl by himself, no help around him? Obviously not, but I think if you had a good roster around him on offense and defense, this is a guy that can make some plays. He showed some promise throwing the ball down the field, extending plays, running, making things happen versus a good defense with a really bad protection tonight. And Evan Neal, the rookie, has been struggling. DeMarcus Lawrence feasted on him. Daniel Jones continued to come back and continued to show fight. And I really got to give credit to both the coaching staff for what they're doing. But Daniel Jones, man, is probably playing the best football he's ever played in the season that he needs to play his best football. I think there is a chance that Daniel Jones is back next year as this team's quarterback, and I think that might be a good thing for this team. And if he's not back with this team, I'm sure he'll get a job elsewhere. I do see the talent, and I've always been, a little bit higher on Daniel Jones than other people. Not saying I'm a huge fan or he's this great quarterback, but I always feel like he's been a little bit more hated on than he deserved, and I thought he played fairly well tonight. I also thought Cooper Rush played good tonight. I thought Cooper Rush made a number of throws. He's accurate. He's not a guy that's going to extend plays or do anything elaborate or crazy. But, man, this guy executes the offense to a T. He always seems to know where to go with the ball. He seems to handle pressure very well. He seems to just know how to be a good backup, and that's what you want from Cooper Rush. And the final thing I want to say about this game, guys, actually two things. First off, Kenny Golladay is fucking terrible at football, so the guy should be cut tomorrow. You should just, don't forget not leaving your locker or whatever the heck the guy did. Bro, just leave the whole building. Leave the stadium. Leave the state. Get out. We don't want you anymore, Kenny Golladay. This guy is terrible, okay? Anyways, the last thing I want to say is Mike McCarthy, man. Mike McCarthy. Everybody criticizes Mike McCarthy for being trash, for being garbage, for not being this extra coach, not being an elite coach. Can we give Mike McCarthy a little bit of credit here for winning some games with a backup quarterback versus the Cincinnati Bengals and the Giants on the road, a team that started 2-0? Can we give a little credit to Mike McCarthy? Every time it feels like the Cowboys win a game, he gets zero credit. And every time they lose a game, he's the only reason they lost. So I'm not even the biggest Mike McCarthy fan. I'm certainly not a stan. But Mike McCarthy, man, I think he's had a good season so far. He understands what type of team he has. He understands it's a defensive team. And he's playing to that. So I think McCarthy deserves some credit for that. 2-1. So, hey, 2-1 for the Dallas Cowboys with Cooper Rush. That's pretty good. So, good luck to the Cowboys. Good luck to the Giants. Both teams that I look forward to watching for the rest of the year and seeing how their season develops, because it could go in a number of directions, but we'll see. Okay, let's rewind to Sunday Night Football. We had Sunday Night Football between the San Francisco 49ers and the Denver Broncos, a game that I thought would be extremely close. So did Vegas. 1.5 points favored, I believe, were the San Francisco 49ers. And the 49ers looked like they were going to win this game. It looked like early they were actually going to run away with the game. It looked like they were just suffocating the Broncos, and they were for much of the game. And many people didn't enjoy this game because it was a defensive football game. It was 11-10. It was a lacrosse game out there. 11-10. I've never heard of that score in my life. But that was this football game. It was ugly. It was gruesome. But the Denver Broncos did it. The Denver Broncos country. Let's ride. They won the game, man. They won the game, and it was a huge win for them. Huge win. I don't care that it was ugly. I don't care that it was down to the wire. I don't care that they probably should have lost. At the end of the day, Russell Wilson does what Russell Wilson does, and that's an ugly win. How many times has Russell Wilson won an ugly football game? I can't even count how many. That was basically most of his wins with the Seattle Seahawks, but hey, they won that game. Now they're 2-1. And yes, they lost the first game against the Seattle Seahawks, but they're 2-1. They have the same record as the Kansas City Chiefs that everybody praises. We'll get to the Chiefs in a bit. Don't you worry. But the Denver Broncos, man, they won the game. So credit to them. Do I think they were the better team on the field? Absolutely, positively not. But I do want to apologize once again. I got to apologize once again. This is a week of apologizing. I got to apologize to Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory. These two men were absolutely phenomenal in this game. Randy Gregory was causing havoc. Bradley Chubb was unbelievable, and he could have had a pick six in the game. Bradley Chubb has been unreal all year. Like, I think he's playing the best football he's ever played of his career. I thought he was pretty good in his, I believe, his sophomore year, and then he took a step back. This year, man, this guy might be playing the best football he's ever played. I love how they're scheming and using Chubb and using Gregory off of each other, lining them up on the same side, doing different games and things with them up front. I think that's making all the difference for this defense. I want to give a shout out to both defenses. The Denver Broncos defense is probably the most underrated unit early in this NFL season because they started off a little slow against Seattle, but they dominated the second half. They absolutely tore it up. They were sacking Geno Smith and causing pressure and getting their team back in it, where a game that the Broncos should have won if their offense doesn't fumble the ball at the 1 yard line, 2 times in the game. They did a phenomenal job there. In week 2, they win the game versus the Texans. I think the Texans scored under 10 points. Their front seven dominated that game. DJ Jones has been a huge addition for their run defense. I think Josie Jewell had a huge game against the 49ers. Baron Browning's been good. They don't even have Justin Simmons right now, guys. A guy that I thought would have been an ideal matchup to face George Kittle, who was back in this game. Didn't really appear to be 100%, but was back in this game. Justin Simmons is injured, but their secondary, man, is really good. Obviously, Patrick Surtain's awesome. Ronald Darby is good. Kawan Williams is good. They've got a ton of talent on that defense, and they're playing schematically really, really well. And I think they're dominating up front, and they're just suffocating on the back end. And I think the Broncos defense really could get them to the playoffs, even if this offense continues to be kind of a mid-unit. On the other side, the 49ers defense, man. The 49ers defense, they're fast. They hit hard. They swarm. This defense reminds me of a Legion of Boom-esque defense. The amount of speed, how quickly they pursue the football, how hard they hit. Like, every single impact is a absolute Mike Tyson uppercut to the jaw. Like, absolutely just tough football. And I think the 49ers defense is... I still think the Bucs defense is the top unit in the league, and we'll get to them, but the 49ers are right there with them, and you could argue that either way. The back end has been massively improved. Charvarius Ward has been a huge addition for them. Emmanuel Mosley has upped his game. But man, this Hufanga, I don't know. Troy Polamalu, I think it's just him in a younger body. This guy is unreal. He's unreal. I think PFF has him as a top 3 safety right now. The guy flies around the football field. Of course, Fred Warner, this linebacking core is awesome. They didn't even have Eric Armstead in the game, and they absolutely dominated the game, guys. They dominated the game. They've got these guys like Givens and Omenahue and Epucam and Kerry Hyder, who's just been awesome for them. Like, it's such a deep D-line, such a deep defense, and they're playing great on the front and the back, and they're going to be tough to score on in every single game, man. They have been so good. So both defenses, I'm not concerned about the offenses. I just thought that these defenses played their asses off. I thought they were real good matchups for what both offenses were trying to be and trying to do. That's a tough matchup for the Niners offense, especially when the Broncos can stop the run the way they did for the most of the day, having DJ Jones in the middle there, and the way that Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory were just kicking the asses, especially when Trent Williams went out. It was just really hard for the Niners to get anything going, especially passing the football down the field, because they've got great cover talent, and they've also got an edge duo that's real tough. And then on the other side, I mean, the Broncos O-line just couldn't block them all day. It was just tough. And like I said, Courtland Sutton is a good player, but I mean, those receivers aren't separating well enough for Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has become more of a pocket passer at this point of his career. He's not a guy that's going to run around and avoid the rush the way he used to. So he needs guys to separate and get open. And the Niners were doing a great job getting quick pressure, but also covering well and executing on the back end. So I just thought that was a really good defensive football game, which is a theme of the season so far. Defense is back in the NFL, and I miss defense, man. I like defense. I like that young Patriots fan in me. Part of the reason I fell in love with the Patriots football is not only because of Tom Brady, but also because of the defense, right? Shutting people down, having the pride in shutting people down and confusing opponents. That is something that I always really admired about the early Patriots days. And I just feel like football over the last few years has been such an offensive game. It's been so offensive. And through the first 3 weeks, I don't know if it's bad offense or great defense. I actually think defenses has caught up to a lot of the modern offensive tricks and things like RPOs, play action rate, the way they defend play action, the way that these schemes are running the football. I just feel like defenses are getting a better grasp on certain offensive attacks. And defense has really been good this year. And that's what I love to see a little bit more of. It's kind of annoyed me how offensive football has become. I like to see balance in this sport that we love. And it's been nice to see that in a big game like Sunday Night Football. I know a lot of people didn't enjoy the game, but me personally, I did enjoy the game because I love seeing defense kick ass. So that's just me. Okay, so we obviously have to talk about the Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance situation. So I came on here, I ranted about Trey Lance being absolute garbaggio, which I stand by, and Jimmy Garoppolo being magnificent. And obviously, I've been critical of Jimmy Garoppolo. I brought it up last week, and the exact reasons we saw in that game. I mean, Jimmy skipped passes short, when guys were open. If you go back, watch the film, there are guys open down the field that he misses, he doesn't see. He clearly looked like a quarterback that was coming off of surgery of some sort. He didn't look comfortable behind that offensive line, especially post Trent Williams. He's still getting comfortable coming back to being the starter because he didn't really work with the team in training camp. I mean, the guy's probably going to have to take a couple weeks to get back to his form, which we already knew wasn't great in the first place. So, obviously, we know the reason the Niners drafted Trey Lance was sound logic. They were trying to go from mid to excellent. They were trying to shoot for the stars. They were trying to find the next Mahomes, the next Allen, the next difference-making quarterback in Trey Lance, which is also apparently the reason they didn't pick a Mac Jones, because they didn't feel like Mac Jones would ever reach that level of a Mahomes or an Allen or this difference-making next-level generational quarterback, which is understandable. So they shot for the stars, which is why they went with Trey Lance, a guy that might be great. He might end up coming back and being phenomenal and this otherworldly talent. He also might come back and be trash. So either way, the decision was sound to draft that type of player because of what they already had in Jimmy Garoppolo. But, obviously you got to be critical about the pick if other guys later in the draft end up being better than him. But Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, can still lead this team far, and I think can be successful with this team. A lot of people are critical after the game about this and that. I mean, it's a tough game on Sunday night to go to Denver, go to Mile High early in the year, and win in that environment. It's just tough to do. I know, and Russell Wilson's a guy that's beat you guys many times. You should understand this. I understand. There were some frustrating points in that game, and there's going to be frustrating points throughout the season, but I would not overreact to the Niners' loss yesterday night. I would not overreact to that. I see them as a top NFC team for the rest of the year, and it might take a little time to adapt in a Jimmy G world when they thought Trey Lance was going to be the guy. But with that defense, with that coach, with the players they have, they'll be fine. And I expect them, to beat the Rams next week. I really do. So I think the Niners are fine. And I think the Broncos, that's just a big win. They needed that win desperately to just get on the right track and build some confidence. They looked like the second best team on the field, but they ended up winning, which is sometimes a game you need to win to boost your confidence a little bit. And the defense for both teams just stood out to me. So that's my stance on that one. Let's talk about the Patriots and the Ravens, guys. So the title of the video is, I'm calling out Lamar haters, right? Lamar Jackson, for whatever reason, since he's entered the NFL, has been an enigma. We don't understand him, and as the saying goes, we hate what we don't understand. Lamar Jackson is an alien. Lamar Jackson is not of Earth. Lamar Jackson, quite frankly, doesn't make sense. Lamar Jackson is Michael Vick if the NFL knew what read options and triple options and pistol formations were in 2002. That's what Lamar Jackson is. He's basically this era's Michael Vick, but Lamar, to his credit, has studied the game, worked harder to get to the point where he is than Michael Vick, a young Michael Vick, I should say, because he grew, he matured later in his career to grow into a mature quarterback. Lamar has showed progress from day one until this point now, where we are today, in terms of being a quarterback, right? A lot of people have been critical about his ability to throw the football. I've been telling you for years the guy has been good at throwing the football. But he continuously is getting better and better and better through every season. And today, Lamar Jackson is not only one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in football. Lamar Jackson isn't only the best running quarterback in football. Lamar Jackson is one of the best passing quarterbacks in football. I think you can legitimately take that argument now through 3 weeks of this season and just throw it out the window. Get rid of it. Throw it in the garbage because it doesn't exist anymore. If you watch Lamar Jackson, there are few players in the NFL that have as good of a release as Lamar Jackson. We've known this. Lamar Jackson has improved as an outside the numbers passer. Lamar Jackson has improved in terms of his vision down the field to go from read 1 to read 2 to read 3 to go through his progressions. Lamar Jackson has improved from a overall decision-making standpoint. Understanding what to do with the football, throw the football away, when to try to force it and make a play. Lamar Jackson rarely gets fooled at this point. He got fooled once against the Patriots. He threw an interception, but it was an incredible play by Jonathan Jones to leave his man who he was covering and jump the other route, which was just a tip of the cap to a very good corner named Jonathan Jones on my New England Patriots. Lamar Jackson, right now, other than Josh Allen, is the best quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. And I think Lamar Jackson is the MVP. So there's a different discussion here, right? There's who's the best quarterback in the NFL and who's the MVP. Those are not always the same thing. As we've seen many times, Tom Brady's been the best quarterback in the NFL, but he's not the MVP. Or we've said Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL, but he's not the MVP. Lamar Jackson is the most valuable player in the NFL right now. Lamar Jackson, what he's doing is special. Right? He currently leads the NFL in passing touchdowns. He currently leads the NFL in passer rating. And people call him a running back. People call him a running back. Please, delete your tweets. Please, delete your memes. Because he's more than that. Not only is he a top quarterback, he's also a top running back. He's tied for 4th in rushing yards right now in the NFL with Christian McCaffrey, the number 1 pick or number 2 pick in your fantasy leagues. Christian McCaffrey is number 4 in rushing. Lamar Jackson is tied with Christian McCaffrey for 4th in rushing yards and also leads the NFL in passing touchdowns, leads the NFL in passer rating. The most games in NFL history with 3+ passing touchdowns and 100+ rushing yards. Lamar had 4. Lamar, over the past 8 days, has 2. And at number 3, there are 6 players tied with 1. Lamar Jackson is different. Lamar Jackson is not of Earth. Lamar Jackson is an alien. And he did it this past week versus a very good defense, in my opinion, in the New England Patriots. And I want to credit Greg Roman because I think a lot of people have been very critical of Greg Roman. Greg Roman has really failed to evolve, to develop, to get better, to kind of be more creative within his offense that he initially designed for the 2019 Baltimore Ravens. And people have figured it out. And early in this year, Greg Roman, in this game against the Patriots, he did plays and did things I've never seen him do before. You know, especially late in that game where he was dialing up some crazy runs, some crazy plays, and he was finding ways for Lamar to get some cheap, easy completions. He was finding opportunities for his playmakers to get the ball in space. He was finding opportunities to allow Lamar Jackson to be at his best. And this guy, I mean, you look at the Ravens, man. This is why he's MVP. He's got no left tackle. Ronnie Stanley's been out for 2 years, which he's coming back soon, which is not good news for the NFL because nobody can stop this offense right now, and they don't even have their best offensive lineman yet. So, good news for Ravens fans. But he's been out, so he's constantly dealing with pressure from his left side. With Dietrich Wise had multiple sacks, I think 3 sacks in the game because the left tackle was so putrid in this football game. He hasn't had any running backs. He finally got J.K. Dobbins back in this game. He's had Kenyon Drake. He's had Devontae Freeman. He's had the shell of Le'Veon Bell. He's had, name the guy. I mean, Justice Hill. Every running back has just been absolute garbage over the last 2 years. No running game from the running backs. He's the whole running game last year and this year. The receivers like Bateman, I like. He's getting better. He's developing into an alpha receiver. He shows flashes. But, I mean, outside of Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman, who's like, they got really nothing. Like replaceable level receivers out there. So, Lamar is the offensive scheme. He's the offense. He's the passing game. He's the running game. And to throw that all in there, their defense has been bad this year, guys. Their defense has been one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They absolutely blew the game against the Miami Dolphins. They were not very good against the Jets, and they were bad against the Patriots. They allowed over 400 yards against an average offense, the New England Patriots. I mean, Lamar Jackson's absolutely through 3 weeks the MVP, and if he keeps this up, he's going to have another historic season to add to his already impressive young resume. This guy's extremely young, guys. So, Lamar, to me, second best quarterback and MVP in football. Guy is different, okay? Different. Now, when we discuss the Patriots, I've got to a little bit. I did the game live on the channel. Appreciate all of those that tuned in to yours truly for the game. The main storyline that I come away with in that game, which unfortunately Mac Jones got injured in the game. Unfortunately, Mac Jones will be out potentially for multiple weeks, although the Patriots will keep that close to the vest, so we won't really know exactly how long he'll be out. It does appear that he'll be out next week against the Packers in Lambeau, which they probably would have lost anyways, to be honest with you, so I'm fine with that. But Mac Jones has a development dilemma. There is a development dilemma with Mac Jones because fans were heavily critical of Mac Jones in this loss to the Ravens. And they were critical of Mac Jones because of the 3 interceptions that show up in the box score. Now, I never love box score analysis. There are a few different things to talk about here. 1, the Patriots have a new offensive coordinator in Matt Patricia. Within that, the Patriots have developed and evolve their offensive attack. within that offensive attack, they have made it clear that they want to be a more aggressive passing game. If you look it up, I don't know where it stands, I don't know where he ranks. Mac Jones certainly is at the top of the league, in at least the top third, even top 10, top 5 in downfield throws. Mac Jones is being aggressive. Mac Jones is throwing the ball down the field. Mac Jones is trying to create big plays. And in this game against the Ravens, he was very successful doing so. This is an offense that scored, I believe, 26. They didn't get a 2-point conversion. They could have scored 30 or more. They had multiple trips into Baltimore territory that didn't result in points as well. So this is an offense that is being more aggressive. They're asking Mac Jones to be more aggressive. And therefore, Mac Jones is not going to have the same numbers as he did in his rookie year. He's not going to be a quarterback that's conservative. He's not going to be a quarterback that protects the football. He's not going to be a quarterback that doesn't throw interceptions. What Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia and possibly even Joe Judge are asking Mac Jones to do is push the ball down the field. They're asking him to be the guy for this team. And that's the difference between last year and this year. Last year, they wanted Mac Jones to manage the game. They wanted Mac Jones to be just a cog in the system. They wanted Mac Jones to just be a part of this team and play through the defense, play through the running game. But this team has changed. They don't have that ability. If they want to win a lot of games, they don't have the ability to just rely on defense, rely on special teams, rely on running game to win. And I think Bill Belichick, throughout the offseason, kind of looked around the NFL and said, you know what, Mac, we're probably not going to win a lot of games this year if you don't throw the ball down the field. And Matt Patricia is intentionally calling plays this way. They are trying to get the ball down the field. Devontae Parker had a huge game this week. Nelson Aguilar had a huge game last week. This is no coincidence because these guys are downfield targets. Devontae Parker played his best game as a Patriot by far this week and looked really good. Now, when we go through, he made a number of amazing throws. He made a number of plays in terms of scrambling around and extending plays that I didn't think he had in him. He continues to get better in that regard, does Mac Jones, in terms of extending plays and making plays happen when they're not there. He actually scrambled for multiple first downs. He ran around and did things that people criticized him for not doing at Alabama. You know, he can be the surgical underneath passer, but Mac Jones is also showing that he can let it go. He can let it rip. He can make throws down the field, and he can also run around and extend plays and scramble if need be. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he can add that to his repertoire. And to me, this is what Mac Jones reminds me of. He reminds me of 2002 Tom Brady. And I know this comparison is going to come up a lot. This is not a great team. Patriots are not a great team. They're probably going to miss the playoffs, and especially if Mac Jones is out for multiple weeks. But that 2002 team was kind of similar, where they were not a playoff team. That was the only year that the Patriots and Tom Brady missed the playoffs. And they asked Tom Brady to hit a different level. He ended up leading the NFL in passing touchdowns that year, despite them not being a very good team because they were more aggressive. And eventually that led Tom Brady to breaking out in 2003, which is the season he truly breaks out as being one of the elite players and being an MVP candidate. And that could happen next year for Mac Jones if he's surrounded by better talent, perhaps. But this is a necessary step in the development of Mac Jones. He wasn't going to be able to develop the way that he was playing last year. Last year, they were protecting the rookie quarterback. Last year, they were allowing him to play as a system quarterback. This year, they're asking Mac Jones to be the guy. They're asking Mac Jones to be the playmaker. They're asking Mac Jones to take this offense over the top and be the guy. And I thought that showed in this game, and it gave them an opportunity to win this game that I think if they would have asked Mac Jones to play the way he played last year in this game, they would have had no chance of winning. They would have lost by 20 plus points. So yes, he threw some interceptions. He threw one really bad interception over the middle of the field that was picked off. That was terrible. I mean, he didn't see the guy in the middle of the field, the linebacker. I I can't remember his name. The middle linebacker for the Ravens, not Patrick Queen, the other one. He threw an interception to him, and he just missed him. He didn't see him. That was terrible, okay? The other 2 interceptions, he was in the red zone, 10-yard line, 5-yard line possibly. I don't quite remember. It was a big play in the game. It was 3rd and goal. He tries to throw a fade to Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker mostly on him for this. He kind of didn't really run the accurate route, or he kind of like was a little slow out of his break, and Mac was pissed at him, rightfully so. A lot of people blame that on Mac Jones, and possibly a more mature Mac Jones that has learned from this mistake. He's never learned from this, right? He's got to learn from these things. He throws it up in the air to give his receiver an opportunity to make a play on 3rd and goal, and a big play. They need a touchdown. And it ends up getting intercepted because Devontae Parker doesn't properly react to the football, and he doesn't see it coming. So perhaps Mac down the road, once he's seen that before, he'll throw it away and they'll kick the field goal and they'll try to live another day. But this time, Mac Jones, the young quarterback, tries to make that extra play. Perhaps because this is a team that's allowing a lot of points, a lot of yards. Lamar Jackson's on the other sideline. He's doing really well. He's moving the football. And Mac understands in his brain that they need to score to win. So I never hate on quarterbacks that are being aggressive, that are trying to win the game. I'm never going to get mad at my quarterback for trying to win a game, for doing what's necessary to win the game. Are there going to be stupid mistakes with young quarterbacks? Absolutely, you should expect that. But we shouldn't be critical, and after the game, the media shouldn't be saying, oh, Mac Jones is not the guy anymore. Like, this is weird shit, but, like, you've got to try, in whatever game you're playing, you've got to try to play the way that you can to win. That's why stats are misleading, because stats will look different in every type of game. When you watch Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers in the game that they played, they weren't trying to go out there and throw 40-yard bombs and throw lasers all over the field. They were trying to manage the game because they understood it was a defensive game where every yard mattered, where every point mattered. They weren't trying to force things. In the game with the Ravens and the Patriots, Mac, as a young player, understood, we're not really stopping Lamar right now. I probably got to throw and force some things and try to make some extra plays, especially as the lesser team on paper. He understood that we're the underdogs. We need to make some plays here. So that's where I'm not going to be critical of that, right? So that's a necessary step in the development of Mac Jones. It's not always going to look pretty, but it's going to make him a better player long term. And I think that's going to be better for his development long term. And that's my main takeaway from the game, guys, for the Patriots. I thought they played really well. I thought they played inspiring football as a team that I didn't really ever put in the playoffs. This is a team that, if Mac Jones is not hurt too long, which it looks like he might be, if they would have just lost this game, whatever the score was, 36 or 37 to 26 or whatever the score was, I would have came away from the game and been like, this team can actually make the playoffs because they're trying to make plays on offense. They're actually, and the defense will have better days than this. So at the end of the day, like, the Patriots kind of looked like a fringe playoff team in this game. They competed with one of the top teams in the AFC, and they could have won the game if not for a couple mistakes. Nelson Aguilar fumbling it on a must-have drive where they're in Ravens territory. That interception by Mac to Devontae Parker. There were a couple plays away from winning the game. So ultimately, I was actually pretty happy about the result of the game. I was pretty pumped about what the Patriots showed in that game. It's just unfortunate that Mac ended up getting injured. So that's my takeaways from the Ravens and the Patriots. Let's talk about Tampa and Green Bay. Okay, this was the other game that I streamed, and this was a defensive game. This was the opposite of New England-Baltimore that felt like a shootout. This game was a very defensive game. The final score, I believe, was 14-12 for the Packers. The Packers scored both of their touchdowns in the first half. And my main takeaways from the game are, first of all, credit, because I call him LaFuck. You know, I'm critical of him. Credit Matt LaFleur in the first half for putting together a good game plan, for coming out with some adjustments and for doing some good things early to catch the Bucs off guard defensively. The Bucs eventually caught up. The Bucs eventually adjusted. But what I really liked about the Packers' early game plan was they heavily relied upon makeshift kind of smoke and mirrors, screens, like these makeshift screen plays, getting the ball in their playmakers' hands, quick throws, quick RPO reads where Rodgers is reading the run, seeing who's coming, throwing it over the top for quick downfield completions. The run game was more successful early than it was late, which was a large reason the Bucs were able to kind of make it a game because they were no longer able to run the ball in the second half. Were the Green Bay Packers? But I want to credit Matt LaFleur for that early game plan. Because I just don't think, especially with the talent they have in Green Bay, I don't think it was really possible to play a straight up game on offense and just like, okay, Rodgers drop back, go 1, 2, 3, and then just throw to the open guy. That wasn't going to happen. Like, if you watch the Cowboys game, that wasn't going to happen. Like, you're not going to do that to the Bucs very often. You have to be a different level of passing game in order to try to just outright beat them in a traditional fashion. You have to. Rodgers in this game threw 4.7 air yards per attempt. 4.7, guys. 4.7. That's extremely short. And obviously it wasn't super successful in the second half, but it gave them the advantage, the edge that they needed. It gave them the lead that they needed, the game flow that they needed. This was the type of game the Packers needed early to win. If the Packers got down early in the game, they were going to lose the game. Because the Packers defense is a lot better with a lead. The Packers defense, especially against a banged up offensive line, can get after you. They can make plays. They can make life difficult. So that was the type of game flow the Packers needed. They needed a quick jump, a quick spark to come out hot. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon continue to impress. I thought A.J. Dillon's stats didn't look super impressive, but the guy is really good at figuring out ways to get 2 to 3 yards basically every carry that he gets the ball. And that's that dirty, ugly style of running that you need in a game like this that I thought was so crucial. Romeo Dubs, however we're saying his name now, had a really good game as a rookie. I thought he made a number of plays. He looks fast. He looks crisp in his routes. That could be a guy that could develop for Rodgers to be a go-to target. Allen Lazard made a couple of key plays in the game, a touchdown in the game, a big play down the sidelines in the game. What else from the Packers? I thought their offensive line was okay. I didn't think it was great. Rodgers early was pretty darn good, but later in the game he got a little shy, a little just kind of in the pocket. He wasn't quite feeling it the way he was early, and he got a little timid at the end of the game and threw an interception that kind of rattled him. The fumble by Aaron Jones, Vita Vea, a huge hit, which was a phenomenal play by a just next level human being in Vita Vea, who's just unbelievable. Just smashed Aaron Jones on the back. Somehow 300 whatever pound defensive tackle drops back to the 1 yard line and smashes a running back at the 1 yard line for a fumble, which was an unreal play. That rattled him a little bit. And that's what I always worry about with Rodgers, because you can see it on the field. He's a very mental player, and it's all about confidence, and it's all about game flow, and it's all about how's this game going. And you can see him get frustrated. You can see him fall into his shell. And that's something that's always bugged me about Rodgers. When Brady is kind of the opposite, when he gets kind of rattled, he kind of gets angry. And then that anger transfers into like this next level player or like different gear. Like Rodgers kind of goes from confident to like he just pulls all the way back and he just becomes timid. And Brady's the opposite, which is kind of the way this game developed. And then Brady kind of made this drive at the end of the game and they got back in it. And I'm not sure what happened with the 2-point attempt, how they got a delay of game there. They were going to score. They were going to tie the game with that inside zone run right up the gut for the 14 points because Brady had the look. He audibled to the look. They saw that there was less guys in the box. Then the Bucs had that were able to block, and Fournette was going to walk right in for a touchdown, and it was going to be the 2-point, and they were going to tie the game. It was going to go to overtime. Unfortunately, they got the delay of game, and the delay of game kind of cost them the game. Whenever you get a delay of game or a 5-yard penalty or something like that on a 2-point conversion, when you go from the 2-yard line to the 7-yard line, it's just really hard to convert in one play unless you keep the play alive, you scramble around, you make plays. Like, it's really hard to find a play from the 7-yard line that's going to beat NFL defenses when they know, certain plays that you're going to run or certain concepts you're going to go for. So it's just really tough. So credit the Bucs for making that surge. Credit the Packers for their start. I thought this was a really good competitive football game. But my main takeaways from it are, in terms of like who I see long term, the Bucs, to me, man, like, I know they lost the game, but the Bucs just look and feel like a team that if they can be healthy this year, they just feel like a Super Bowl caliber team, and it's because of their defense. Their defense is so good right now. Their defense is the best in the NFL. Their defense is good in all areas. They really have no weaknesses, and that's a very rare modern defense. They can cover, man, zone, they can blitz, they can rush 4, they can stop the run when they need to stop the run, they come up with clutch turnovers, they come up with key stops, they always seemingly get their team in it, back in it, or they just can sustain a lead. Their defense is phenomenal right now, and Todd Bowles is doing magic over there. Logan Ryan has been a wonderful pickup for them. Winfield's playing great. I think Joe Tryon showed up in this game, which they need him to. And no Akeem Hicks either, guys. Akeem Hicks didn't play in this game, and Akeem Hicks can still really play. Once they get him back, he's going to be, in this matchup, if they play again, like, that's the type of guy that really could make all the difference for them on defense. And they held them to 14 points, right? They held them to 14 points. Akeem Hicks didn't play, and that's the type of guy where he can really help with the run D. Right? That's where early in the game, maybe you don't see Aaron Jones pop for 6 or 7 because Akeem Hicks is next to Vita Vea. But yeah, the Bucs defense is amazing. I think their punter, like their special teams is improved. Suckup's been good so far. Their punter was great in this game, in a game of field position. I rarely say punter is great, but like he was. And then offensively, pretty much all of their issues right now are personnel. Like, not having Mike Evans, not having Chris Godwin, not having Julio Jones, and not having Donovan Smith. Those are 4 Pro Bowl level players. Like, Julio might not be at that level anymore, but he looked like it in week 1. Those other guys are all Pro Bowl level players, like top of the top, cream of the crop at their position. And I thought Brady played a good game in this one. Like, people are going to watch, if they were just casually watching the game or if they were watching the box score or whatever, Brady played a lot better than the box score. I mean, these guys just didn't make plays for him. Like, Perryman fumbled the ball. Gage fumbled the ball both times in Packer territory in a defensive game where 3 points is big points. Like, they would have won the game with 6 points, right? That's huge. Their offensive line just doesn't have that chemistry across the board. The thing with one left tackle injury is that it affects the entire line. It affects the run game. It affects the pass game. It affects your chemistry across the board. It affects how you're going to block certain things. It affects how you're going to scheme certain things. It affects how you're going to double team certain players. Because if Donovan Smith, who's an elite left tackle, is not there, and you've got your 3rd string left tackle, not just your 2nd string, and he's playing a Rashawn Gary, you've got to adjust your whole game plan simply to block Rashawn Gary, when if Donovan Smith was there, you wouldn't have to worry as much, you know? And you've got guys like Cole Beasley off the street playing in for an elite slot receiver like Chris Godwin. Cole Beasley, I don't know, man. Like, he looked fine, like, as a maybe like a deep option. But I thought Russell Gage was promising. What he showed, even battling through injury, I thought was impressive. He had 12 catches in the game. So if he can be that 3rd or 4th target, depending on the health of Julio moving forward, I think that would be big. And he seemed to gain that trust and chemistry of Brady, which is ever important down the stretch. And that's the type of game you need to have and experience you need to have with Tom Brady, because that's when he gains your trust. That's when you gain his trust. And I think Russell Gage gained that in this game. Perryman seems to be like their next man up on the outside. he's just super inconsistent. He flashes upside, but Scotty Miller is just, I don't think he's it, to be honest with you. Like, other than just flying down the field occasionally, he doesn't do much for me. Their tight ends aren't giving them much right now. But the biggest thing for me that I see with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with their offense right now, and again, I come away from this game, despite the loss, long term, I think the Bucs are going to be much better off than Green Bay because, yeah, Green Bay was missing Christian Watson. They were missing Sammy Watkins. Alexander left the game early. With all due respect, it's nothing like not having Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Donovan Smith, and Akeem Hicks. It's nothing like that, right? Those are game plan changing players, right? So, and that changes the way their offense is because right now, the Packers are built and they understand how to build their offense around limited skill talent because they came into the season understanding how to get the ball to these limited players. And Matt LaFleur has always understood how to do that. That's the credit I give him as an offensive mind. Byron Leftwich is a Jimmy's and Joe's coach. I like Byron Leftwich. I think when he has the talent there, he's a wonderful play caller. And I don't quite understand, and I have to give some blame to Todd Bowles as well. Because I think ever since Todd Bowles has become the head coach, he's wanted to play this defensive, run, grind it out style of play, field position. Like, yeah, I get it, but you've got Tom Brady. Like, you don't have Sam Darnold out there, Todd Bowles. You got Tom Brady. So at the end of the day, let Tom Brady carry this team. Let Tom Brady carry this offense. And you're not allowing Tom Brady to be Tom Brady when you're running on every first down for 1 yard, right? You're just putting Tom Brady and this offensive line, for that matter, in a worse situation when Tom Brady is always having to play in 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8. Like, this offense right now, with those receivers and with this offensive line, is not built to be in 3rd and 10. And there's also the point of, like, Leftwich doesn't really do a lot to help these limited playmakers do damage. He doesn't use a lot of motion. He's not utilizing, they don't use RPOs. They really haven't used as much play action as they typically use. And they're inefficient on early downs because they continuously run the ball. So, honestly, I think the Bucs would have won this game even with the players they had, if they just adjusted their offensive approach to be a little bit more, not aggressive, because people see it as aggressive, people see it as risky to throw the ball, but when you throw the ball early on early downs, it gives you more opportunity to convert in 1st and 2nd down and avoid 3rd down entirely, but it also gives you more manageable situations to protect your offensive line and protect your quarterback. And right now, Leftwich is just not doing a good job scripting these plays and calling these plays. And he doesn't understand how to call a game without the Jimmies and the Joes. And that's a problem for me with Byron Leftwich. So I like the Bucs moving forward, especially when they get their players back. I'm very intrigued versus the Chiefs to see how Brady and Leftwich adjust their approach offensively. I want to see, even if they don't have all their players, even if they're still missing multiple guys, if they become more Brady-centric, because that's where their offense has always been at its best. And Brady is still great enough to be that guy, to just carry this offense. And they need to trust him to do that. And right now, they're doing themselves a disservice by playing through Leonard Fournette and not through Tom Brady. And that's my opinion on that. Let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. Tuanon defeated the mafia. Tuanon rose above the mafia. Okay? I had to go back. I had to watch this one for my own eyes. I had to see it. So I went back. I watched it. And quite frankly, the Buffalo Bills should have won this game. I mean, I've got to look at the stats, guys, but I've got to give the correct service that this deserves. I mean, my goodness, you look at the stats here in this football game. week number 3 of the 2022 NFL season. Trying to find the game. There it is. So 21-19 Miami, right? These are the stats. These are the stats in the game. First downs. 31 for Buffalo. 31 first downs for Buffalo. 15 first downs for Miami. 31-15. The difference between the first downs, 31 minus 15 is 16, right? That's more than the Dolphins had. The difference between the first downs was more than the Dolphins had. So that's the first stat. Buffalo was 11 for 18 on third down. Miami was 3 for 8. Buffalo was 2 for 3 on fourth down. Miami did not go for it. Buffalo had 115 rushing yards. Miami had 41. Buffalo had 382 passing yards. Miami had 171. The yards, 497 to 212. Sacks, Miami had 4. Buffalo had 2, which is the one category that Miami wins because obviously they were on the field more. Buffalo punted once in the game, and they scored 19 points, and they lost. Miami punted 5 times in the game. Guys, this game was crazy. The time of possession, 42 minutes, 20 seconds for Buffalo. 42 minutes and 20 seconds. Josh Allen's offense had the football. 19 minutes for the Miami Dolphins. Absolutely absurd statistics. This game made no sense to watch, okay? Now, what happened in the game? How did the Bills possibly lose this game? So, there was a strip sack early in the game on Josh Allen on the second drive in the game at the 10-yard line, their own 10-yard line by Javon Holland, the Canadian kid, who that resulted in a Miami touchdown by Chase Edmonds. There was a 4th and 2 by the Bills that they converted with Josh Allen just running through a human being, which was fun to watch. Just thought I'd bring that up. Melvin Ingram has been a huge addition. I thought he had another good game. I thought he's been a huge late addition. A lot of times players are added, like veterans are added as like depth, and they don't usually work out. Melvin Ingram has been one of the rare cases of that actually working out for the team. It really, for Buffalo, it looked easy in the first half. Like, their offense, it looked easy. They had a touchdown in the first quarter. They had a touchdown in the second quarter. And they scored 14 points. But they really could have had more. It looked easy. I thought Tua made a nice throw to Craycraft or Croc, whatever his name is. That was a nice touchdown throw by Tua. I will give him credit for that. I will say Miami's defense, when they got to Allen, they laid the wood. I mean, they laid him out. Like, they made some big hits. And I think one of my main takeaways in this game is, from a defensive perspective, when you're playing Allen, is it's really tough to beat this guy, man. It's really tough because he can do so many different things and he can beat you in basically every way right now. He's on fire. But you've got to try whatever you can to get some sort of pressure on him. Like, you've got to do anything. You can't, at this point, like, people always say, like, oh, you can't blitz Allen, you can't blitz Allen, you can't blitz Allen. Well, at this point, he's proven if you rush 4, this offensive line's good enough. He's going to go through his reads quick enough. These receivers will separate quick enough. He'll find the read. This offensive scheme is so diverse and so effective. The passing game is great. They're going to pick you apart play after play after play, and he's going to be comfortable. You got to get some sort of pressure on the guy. Like, you've got to mix it up. You've got to play games with him. You've got to do different things. You can't just play zone all game. You can't just play man all game. You can't just blitz all game. Like any great quarterback, you've got to do multiple things, and you've got to try to confuse him or try to do something to make him hold the ball a little bit and try to get some hits on him. Because if you're not pressuring this guy, it doesn't matter what you do. You're gonna die at 1,000 paper cuts, or you're going to die in one play. So, like, you know, when Bridgewater came into the game, his arm was terrible. I mean, his arm looked dead. Like, Tua's arm is not exactly strong, but Bridgewater's arm looked next level dead to me when I watched him throw the football. The end of the half management by the Bills was a little confusing. So they had the ball at the 34-yard line of Miami, and Josh Allen decided to do a fake spike. I don't know if that was a call by the Bills or if that was a call by Allen, but that was just stupid. They should have spiked it. They should have kicked the field goal from there, and they should have tried to get 3 points. That would have made all the difference in this game. It would have won them the game. So for them to fake spike it for no reason, I don't know if they thought they needed another extra yards. I don't know what they thought, but that was a terrible call. It's impressive that the Bills were able to lose this game despite Tyreek Hill putting up 5 fantasy points and really doing nothing in this game. Now, this was by far Tyreek Hill's least effective game as a Miami Dolphin, and they really locked him up, and they're not very good against Tyreek Hill traditionally. Like I said with Lamar Jackson, I don't think Josh Allen is the MVP right now, but he is the best quarterback in the league. And I think it showed in this game, even with the loss. I mean, you look at Josh Allen's numbers in the game. He was stellar again. I mean, he had 400 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. He did not throw a pick. And he attempted 63 passes. And he ran the ball, right? He ran the ball as well. I mean, Josh Allen, I continue to say, he's like he's a one-man show for the Bills. He's the entire Bills offense, very much like Lamar. And in this game, they probably put too much on his shoulders, especially in the heat of Miami. Gabe Davis had a really big drop in the end zone. They would have scored a touchdown. Keon Crossan, the former Patriot, made a big play punching the ball out of his hands when he was about to score a touchdown. That was a great play, but also a missed opportunity that took 4 points off the board for Buffalo. The Bills refused to run the ball at all in this game. Like, that's what I'm saying. 63 attempts. The game was not out of hand. The game was not a comeback. The game was not a game where you're really trailing by a lot of points. But nonetheless, the Bills threw 63 times. There was really no reason to throw the ball that many times. You got to keep the defense honest. You got to keep them from just sending pressure at your quarterback continuously. I kind of was confused by that. Matt Milano dropped a pick 6, like right in his hands. Tua threw it right to him, had a pick 6, and he just dropped it. They also missed a 38-yard field goal. That was a disaster. I was surprised that Miami and their offensive attack was unable to expose a pretty beat-up back end of the defense for Buffalo. I mean, they made their plays, sure, but like 180 yards in the passing game is nothing to really be excited about. The Bills' defense really was undermanned, and I thought they did a fine job in this game. Obviously, the time of possession by Buffalo also helped things. So you got to give Miami's defense a lot of credit for continuing to fight. You know, despite giving up a ton of yards, they did not give up the points, and they were on the field for over 40 minutes in this game. It's going to be a real tough test for them on Thursday, having to play another good offense and another good quarterback and great receivers in a short week. That's going to be tough for the conditioning. What else from this game did I see? There was a bad pass by Josh Allen on a key 4th and goal that he just missed. He flicked it off his back foot. It was inaccurate. It was short. And obviously the terrible punt that was arguably the worst play in NFL history. I don't know what Sherfield was doing. I don't know if he was lined up in the correct spot. It felt like he was too close to the punter, but the punter nonetheless just kicked it off his backside, which was interesting strategy there. I also thought that Emmanuel Ogbah played a very good game. Jalen Waddle played a very good game. I thought the Miami offensive line, for the most part, played a very good game. Tua, there's a lot of controversy going around about the possible concussion back injury deal. Definitely looked more so like a head injury there. And you could tell because Tua got up, shaking his head, and then he was walking and he was stumbling a bit. I don't understand how that could be portrayed as a back injury. But nonetheless, the Dolphins win 21-19. Not overly surprising considering all of the Bills' injuries, but surprising in how it unfolded. The Bills thoroughly dominated the game from basically every aspect, from yardage to time of possession, and they were unable to make the necessary plays to win the game, and the Dolphins capitalized on the mistakes that the Bills made. So credit the Dolphins. Right now, they're looking like a top AFC team. I'm not buying them as a Super Bowl team. I'm not buying them as an AFC champion team. But it certainly looks like they're a playoff team. It certainly looks like they could win a playoff game this year. And they're playing with the best of the best, toe-to-toe. And the Bills, I'm not too concerned about this loss. I think Bills fans, they're probably all excited for this year. Domination, domination, domination. And any loss that you have, any loss that you sustain is disappointing. And I've been there. I've done that as a Patriots fan, continuously expecting perfection. And this just shows how hard it is to go undefeated. I mean, people after 2 weeks were talking about the Bills as if they were going to go undefeated. Injuries happen, mistakes happen, bad throws happen, turnovers happen, good game plans happen. Ultimately, you're going to lose games in the NFL. There's only so many undefeated teams going around here, but credit the Dolphins, but I'm not concerned about the Bills whatsoever. I still think they're the best team in football right now. I just think injuries happen. Obviously, we're talking about that with Tampa as well, and just an unfortunate game for them, but they'll bounce back. Absolutely. This might actually piss them off a little bit. The one thing that I do think is kind of going around is the Bills' inability to win a close game, which is something, I guess, which I guess we need to keep track of moving forward a little bit closer, because the Bills, for like 6 straight close games, have been unable to win that game. Like every game that finishes within a touchdown, they've been unable to win. Every game they seemingly win is some sort of shootout, some sort of game where they end up winning by 10 plus, by more than one possession, and that's weird. That's very weird. And in the playoffs, you're going to have to ultimately come up with big wins in key clutch moments in one possession games, and Buffalo has yet to prove that over the last 2 years. So that's one thing you could nitpick there with the Buffalo Bills. The Cincinnati Bengals. Let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals real quick. I'm not going to lie. I have not gone back and watched this game yet. I put it to the end of the list. But I will watch it before Thursday, because if I have any interest in betting that game, I want to go back and watch the Bengals. But from what I could read from the box score and just from the overall storyline of the game, Joe Burrow only sacked 2 times. Big key, as I've been talking about. Getting rid of the ball, protecting Joe Burrow, key. Defense is still playing well. The Jets came back down to earth on offense. Joe Flacco didn't have a great performance. But shout out to my guy Tyler Conklin, who was one of my more underrated free agents coming into free agency this year. Caught 8 passes in this game for over 80 yards, leads the Jets in receiving. 3rd in fantasy points for tight end so far, so if he's on the waiver wire, go pick him up, just saying. But the Bengals got the win they needed, and they didn't only get a win, they got a convincing win. They got back to making some big plays. Their defense played good. Joe Burrow was on the money, so they got a big win. They got that monkey off their back. Now they have a huge Thursday night football game where they can completely change the narrative of their season. They're playing a team that's undefeated. I believe the game's at home. And this is a huge game for the Bengals. If the Bengals lose, they drop to 1-3. They go to the conversation of, yeah, they beat the Jets. Who cares, right? It was the Jets. They suck. Of course, we expect them to beat the Jets. But if they beat the Dolphins, a team that just beat the Bills, a team that just beat the Ravens, a team that beat the Patriots even, a team that I just said could possibly be, if Mac Jones can stay on the field, maybe even the 7th seed or whatever in the AFC. So the Bengals, this is the game. If the Bengals are what we thought they were going to be, if the Bengals are going to be a playoff team, at home, they've got to beat the Dolphins. And this does feel like a bit of a potential down spot for the Dolphins, right? The Dolphins on the road, Thursday night, rookie coach on his first Thursday night game that traditionally trends poorly for those teams. And then you've also got, 40 minutes your defense played. Your pass rush is probably going to be tired. You're probably going to be a bit tired. all that sort of stuff. The Bengals kind of cruise to a victory. So this is going to be a real tough game for the Dolphins. If the Dolphins are able to win this game against the Bengals in any way, shape, or form, I'm going to give them a ton of credit for that. Okay? But this is a game the Bengals need to win on Thursday. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts upset the Kansas City Chiefs in a shocking game. A shocking game. This is a football game and a result that I did not see coming. I made the Chiefs one of my horrendous best bets. And as I said, and as I stated earlier, I will get better. I will get back to my fundamentals. But Mahomes disappointed me. The Chiefs disappointed me. The offense, Andy Reid, the special teams, all of it. Were the Chiefs so bad in this game where I'm looking at them moving forward and being like, they suck, they're going to miss the playoffs, they're no good, all this stuff? No. When you watch the game, they made too many mistakes. It was similar to the Bills game, right? Another game on the road. But the Chiefs also don't look super impressive. And then this has been 2 weeks in a row where they don't look overly impressive. Am I worried about them as a good team, as a playoff team? No. Am I worried about them as a true contending Super Bowl team? Yeah, a little bit. Because this is a team that ultimately, from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Eric Bieniemy, all the money in the offensive line, this is a team that's offense, right? This is an offensive team. At the end of the day, their core, their philosophy, the way they build their team, it's an offensive team. Their defense in this game played about as good as they can play, and they lost. What does that say about the offense right now? The offense didn't play well against the Chargers either. Their offensive line got their asses kicked. And in this game, their offensive line got their asses kicked. Their offensive line, they spent all the money on Orlando Brown. They spent all the money on Joe Thuney. They've got young players that PFF ranks as the best of their position. These guys didn't play well. They didn't protect Mahomes very well. But then that goes hand in hand with the offense, the rhythm of the offense, the play calling of the offense, the scheme of the offense, and the play of Patrick Mahomes. Okay? Mahomes, everybody ranking as the best quarterback in the league before the year except for me. Part of the reason is because of games like this. Josh Allen has proven that he can win as an ad-libber, but he's also a guy that will stay within structure. He will stay within the flow of the offense, the flow of the game. Lamar Jackson's playing at MVP level right now. Patrick Mahomes in this game, way too much. Still the thing that we see from him all the time. Way too much backyard football. Way too much just running around in circles and just waiting for a crossing route to come open and throwing it sidearm. Like, there was no rhyme or reason in this game from a philosophy standpoint from the Chiefs. I mean, we know what the Colts are doing on defense. They're playing cover 3 or they're playing cover 1. It's really not that hard. Like, it's not like you're playing the 85 Bears. It's not like you're playing the 2000 Ravens. It's not like you're playing Bill Belichick's prime Patriots here. You're playing the Gus Bradley-led Colts defense in a dome, in a game where they're not overly creative. Yeah, they played more man coverage on third down than expected. They locked up better than expected. Stephon Gilmore did his thing, all that stuff. Their D-line got pressure, but for the Chiefs to consistently have plays where it felt like Mahomes is holding the ball, there's nobody open, or he's just not getting the ball to his first read and he's having to escape the pocket and extend plays to make things happen. Some of it falls on Mahomes, some of it falls on the philosophy, some of it falls on the game plan. But their lack of ability to adjust in this game was staggering. They couldn't adjust to what the Colts were doing. And it just felt like Mahomes didn't trust what they were trying to do, what they were calling, how this offensive line was playing. and these receivers. It just doesn't feel like Mahomes trusts the offense in all of the different facets of the offense. The way that Josh Allen trusts the Bills, or Josh Allen is able to play within that system with those players. Mahomes is more so like, oh, F it, I'm going to do this by myself. Because it feels like he doesn't really like the play call, or he doesn't really think it's going to work, or he doesn't like the players around him as much as he liked Tyreek Hill or whatever. Like, it just feels like this offense isn't there right now. And they're having similar issues to that they had last year. Like, they really struggled in this game, guys. And the offensive line, they couldn't run the ball at all. Clyde Edwards-Helaire I don't understand why this guy continues to get opportunities. Like, I was wrong about him coming out of college. I thought he was going to be a good dual threat running back who could catch the ball, run the ball, be a great guy in between the tackles, all that stuff. Man, he has no explosion. He has no ability to make plays. You've got to find a different solution at running back. You've got to find a way to run the ball better. This team is too predictable, and they don't have the personnel any longer to just be this team that throws the ball 45 times. Like, their offensive line isn't protecting well enough. Mahomes isn't reading things well enough. And there's no Tyreek Hill. Like, you're relying on Valdez-Scantling. You're relying on Mecole Hardman. You're relying on Juju. Like, I told you, these guys, they're not good. Like, I told you, they're not good, right? Like, Kelsey's still very good, but he's only one guy, and you can take him away. You can double him. You can bracket him. You can put a really good corner on him and ask them to run the ball, and they still can't run the ball, right? You can put Stephon Gilmore on Travis Kelce, and Travis Kelce isn't going to bully you in the running game. Like, he's not really a threat that way. He's not a Gronk. He's not going to run you out of the club, right? If you used to put a corner on Gronk, he would just destroy you. They would just call a run, and they would just run you over, right? That's the difference between a Gronk and a Kelce and things like that. Now, when you don't have Tyreek Hill, well, all the attention shifts to Kelce. The zones sway that way. The top players play Kelce. They've got doubles on Kelce. And if Valdez-Scantling and Juju are not separating and not getting open and not making plays, and Mahomes is not confident in that, you're going to struggle all year long, and especially against defenses that you're facing coming up, like the Bucs. That's going to be tough, especially on the road, right? Defensively, I want to give the Chiefs a lot of credit. I think their defense looks real good. Their defensive line is improved. Chris Jones is having a great year. He did have a very bad penalty in this game that was real rough for the team. It extended a drive with a 15-yard personal foul or unsportsmanlike or something like that. I think that they hit on their first-round pick, George Karlaftis, looks real good. I think the depth overall, they're stopping the run really well. They're playing a lot more sound in the back end and the front. Overall, Spagnuolo's doing a great job with this defense. We've seen this defense struggle with him and then trying to figure it out later in the year because they don't really have the talent. But it appears that now they have enough talent, and Spagnuolo's figuring it out. And the identity of the Chiefs has shifted. It's changed. They used to be a team that was high-flying, a team that had to outscore their opponent. And now it feels like a team that their offense is good, but it's not great. And they're kind of trying to balance out their roster and their team. So they're trying to put a little bit more talent on defense and maybe a little bit more pressure on Mahomes and Reed on offense to just make things work over there. And right now, things aren't really working based on that game because it was a really bad game. And there's the struggles and the worries that I had about this team coming into the year. But defensively, even better than I expected. Their young players are shining, and their secondary is playing well. They might not have a Charvarius Ward anymore, but L'Jarius Sneed is phenomenal. Their blitz packages are really working, and I'm intrigued to see how they play against the Bucs this next week because that's a pretty good offense if they have all of their pieces there, other than probably Godwin. Special teams was also a critical area of this game. They missed a field goal. I believe they missed an extra point. Sky Moore fumbled the first punt of the game. Sky Moore also allowed the ball to fly over his head and drop to the 1-yard line, which was also huge. So there was multiple opportunities in this game where the Chiefs missed opportunities or made mistakes on special teams. but their defense played phenomenal. There was also, points where the Colts missed opportunities though, right? 4th and 1s where they didn't convert either one, right? They didn't convert a 4th and 1 in Chiefs territory. They didn't convert a 4th and 1 again when there was an all-out pressure by Spagnuolo. So there was multiple opportunities for both sides to add some extra points in this game, and it just didn't happen. But overall, I'm not overly concerned about the Chiefs, but I am concerned about the Chiefs playing elite teams because the Colts are not an elite team, and the Colts defense really took it to the Chiefs offense, and the Colts offense basically did nothing in the game. Like, they really didn't. Matt Ryan still is concerning to me. His arm strength is not it. Their offense is just not finding ways to throw the ball down the field. Their running game isn't what it used to be. It's not special. It's not what it was last year. Michael Pittman is the only real threat in the passing game. They're struggling to pick up blitzes consistently, and that's putting Matt Ryan under a lot of duress, especially on 3rd and 4th downs. So they've got to figure that out because they still got a lot of things to figure out. I think they were fortunate to win this game, but credit their defense and credit Gus Bradley, a guy that got shredded all week for going in with a game plan that was idiotic, stupid. Everyone called him a jackass. Well, hey, it worked. Gilmore had a phenomenal game. He caused the game-winning interception. DeForest Buckner had a good game. Yannick Ngakoue had a good game. And I don't even believe they had Darius Leonard in the game. So credit that defense for stepping up and playing good and bouncing back. The next subject I want to talk about is the Raiders. So right now, I can't call them the Raiders because quite frankly, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve being called the Raiders because they're not playing like it right now. They're the Raiders to me right now. And this is really an 0-3 start that is shocking, obviously, to me, because I thought the Raiders were going to be a playoff team. But at the same time, it's one that makes sense. And at the same time, it's also an 0-3 start that when you watch the actual games, it's not disappointing, not discouraging, but the word to correctly describe it is unfortunate. The Raiders' 0-3 start has been unfortunate. They have not been a bad team this year. They have not been a team that has lacked execution, that has lacked the ability to win. They have just been a little unlucky, and they've played 3 teams. First, they played the Chargers, fully healthy, very talented team, on the road, multiple interceptions, all that stuff. They lose. Only by 5, 1-score game. Week 2, they're up huge, 20-0, halftime. Kyler Murray, he goes beep, beep. They turn the game around. Crazy things happen. Kyler Murray pulls off one of the most incredible plays I've ever seen, and they win. Unfortunate. Week 3, they're down big in the game. Multiple scores. They surge all the way back. Quite frankly, they dominate the second half. Comes down to a 2-point conversion. They lose. 3 games. 1-score losses. When you look at the Raiders last year, they were arguably the most lucky team in the NFL. They won a bunch of 1-score games. And as we know in the NFL, it's very hard to replicate and repeat that performance year to year. It's really hard. Everyone was saying, the Raiders made the playoffs last year. But we all knew the Raiders of last year were fortunate to make the playoffs. The Raiders of last year survived a ton. The Raiders of last year were a lucky football team, and they were not a playoff team in the truest sense of the word. They made the playoffs, but they weren't really a playoff caliber team. This year, they're starting from that point of everyone expects them to be in the playoffs. Everyone expects them to be good. They added some big names. They added a new coach that has a lot of history. And now they're 0-3, and people are shocked by it and people are disappointed by it and Raiders fans are very upset. And I get it. You're passionate fans. But at the same time, I wouldn't call it issues, but just things that maybe we didn't correctly understand. And I don't think their season is over by any stretch of the imagination. I think they can get back in this thing. But you just take that for what it is. 3 one-score losses versus the Titans and Mike Vrabel and a coach and a team and an organization that really, down to its fundamentals, is very familiar with Josh McDaniels and company over there. Vrabel's had success against McDaniels before. And you look at the other 2 games, a special talent at quarterback in Kyler Murray and a very good team in the Chargers. It's not super shocking that they've lost these 3 games. Now let's go over what happened in the game so I can explain my stance on the Raiders and why I think, because a lot of people are being super critical of Josh McDaniels right now, and I think it's a little unfair. So let's talk about it. The one area I will say about Josh McDaniels that he deserves blame in this game is third down. In third down in this game, they were bad. Okay, they were bad. In this game, on third down, they were straight up horrendous. Okay? Straight up horrendous. 1 for 12 on third down. That is inexcusable. And some of that has to go on the shoulders of the play caller. Absolutely. Some of it's the pressure that the Titans created. Some of it's Derek Carr. But some of it's got to go on Josh McDaniels. Now, the reason the Raiders lost this game is the Titans came out and the Titans offense looked like it used to look. They ran the ball down the throat of the Raiders. They started hot. They ran it. They hit big play action plays down the field. They ran it better than they did in the first 2 games. And the Titans played to their ideal game script. They played ahead in the football game. That allowed Ryan Tannehill to not be behind a bad offensive line and get pressure on him and be in bad situations. They were able to run Derrick Henry. They were able to stay in that game script, right? That game flow. That was huge for them. And the Raiders defense never allows them to dictate the game. The Raiders defense is why they lost this game. The Raiders defense had a great second half. They made a number of plays. Duron Harmon had another interception to get them back in it. They had a number of big run stops when they needed it most to get them back in it. But early in the game, they allowed 21 points in the first half, I want to say. They allowed the first 2 drives to go for touchdowns easily. Just up and down the field, the Titans went. And that put their offense in a terrible situation from the jump. So the defense never allowed them to get in that game flow. And the defense, when we look at it, it's not a bad defense, I would say, for the Raiders, but it's certainly one that we weren't ranking in the top 10 or even the top 15 for that matter. It's a highly flawed defense. There's a number of good players, but there's also a number of suspect average players. And it's not one that fully has all the personnel yet. And the biggest thing I see from the Raiders is they're continuing to learn this new style. They're continuing to learn this new coaching regime. They're continuing for Derek Carr to learn the system, especially in the red zone where they are very flawed right now and they are making mistakes and they are not reading things correctly. Derek Carr's not seeing things correctly. They're not making plays there enough. And then on the flip side, I mean, staying on offense, we should just say the offensive line is not where they want to be. Like in the trenches, this is not the personnel that the Raiders want yet. Like McDaniels, the front office, they still have a ways to go. They probably need another offseason to build this front on offense and defense the way they want it. I'm not saying that the offensive line was bad. It wasn't that bad, but it could be better in the future. And I think that this team could be better in the future. And they're not quite built. This is still dealing with John Gruden's Raiders. This is dealing with the past regime They did as much as they could to become competitive this offseason, but they're still trying to get to where they want to go. So part of it is that and fitting players into this system that shouldn't really be there. But part of it is just adapting to this new style of play. I do want to give credit to Mac Hollins, who had an amazing game. He came to life in this game, which was the biggest positive takeaway for the Raiders and Raiders fans. You might have a third receiver out there in Mac Hollins, a guy that made multiple downfield throws, multiple downfield catches and plays. He could be a real nice depth piece for you once Renfrow comes back to be that third receiver, to be that fourth target in the offense that you didn't really have before he came on in this game. Yeah, I just thought the Raiders defense was really awful early on. It just can't happen the way it did. 3 drives, 3 touchdowns for Tennessee. The Titans offensive line whooped the Raiders' ass in the run game consistently. Early in the game, Derek Carr offensively missed Darren Waller on a 40-yard gain. It was 3rd down and 11, wide open down the right sideline. Derek Carr just missed him. And I've seen that more from him this year than I've seen him in the last 2 years. He's just missing guys sometimes. Big plays. He was late on another play to one of his receivers. I believe it was Keelan Cole down the right sideline. Late to get him the ball on a corner route that could have been wide open. He misses that. So he's just a tick slow on some of these concepts, and he's just missing guys. I feel like it's confidence. But this just feels like right now an unlucky team, a snake-bitten squad, that they're just not getting the breaks they did last year. The difference in the game, there's a couple missed tackles on special teams that leads to an extra field goal at the end of the first half for the Titans, that if the Titans are unable to get that, the Raiders potentially win the game. Like, that's a big difference. There's a 3rd and 4 in the red zone for the Raiders. They take a false start in the mid-third quarter. 3rd and 4 in the red zone. They take a false start. It makes it 3rd and 9, and that causes it to be 4th and 9 and makes it a field goal attempt. Small things like that, small details like that are why the Raiders lost this game, or why the Raiders are 0-3 and not 3-0. Small things. A interception that was thrown for a touchdown over the middle of the field to Darren Waller. It bounces off the top of his hands and is intercepted. That's 6 points taken away right there. 6 points taken away late in the game. You could have won the game based off that touchdown. It's taken away. That's the reason you're 0-3 and not 3-0. And the thing I would say about that is I guarantee you after that play happened, Josh McDaniels told Derek Carr, because I've heard this for a number of years from the Patriots, you throw the ball at the front of the end zone low. Because why do you throw the ball at the front of the end zone low? Because your guy can catch it, the other team can't intercept it. If you throw the ball high at the front of the end zone, the ball can go off the hands of your receiver and it can get intercepted. I guarantee that was a coaching point entering week 4 for Derek Carr, who's a veteran quarterback, who probably knows that already. But that's a small thing that they've got to work on. And it was a little unfortunate because you expect Darren Waller to catch the ball, even though, it was high. Like, you expect him to catch it. It hit the top of his hands. He's a good player. He should catch it. Yeah, man, it's tough to watch. I expected better out of the Raiders. I want to see better out of the Raiders. I root for the Raiders. I definitely think they're a flawed team. I definitely think they have, especially on defense, some flaws, but this is a better team than 0-3. This is a better team than 0-3. They should be better than 0-3. They should be 2-1 for that matter, and they just haven't got the breaks. But I will say, their season's not over. When we look at the next 2 games they play the Broncos and they play the Chiefs. Those are huge games. Those games mean more than the last 3 games combined because those are divisional games. And right now, the AFC West is shockingly not very good. The AFC West right now, the best teams are 2-1. Broncos, who look extremely flawed. the Chiefs, who I just talked about being kind of not as good as people think. And then the Chargers are extremely hurt. So the Raiders, they could bounce back right here against two divisional foes, against the Broncos and the Chiefs. And then after the bye, they play some winnable games, like they play the Texans. So I feel like they can get right back in this very quickly, and especially if they can get things together at the bye week. I wouldn't be that shocked if the Raiders turn this season around, because a lot of what's happening to them is just feels like unlucky stuff. So that's my take on the Raiders. Credit the Titans for a big win. That's why Mike Vrabel is, everyone loves him as a coach. He wins that game. You know, underdog at home, week 3, gotta have it game, backs against the wall game. He figures it out. Losing players, you know, on defense. Offense can't figure it out. They put together a good game plan early. They're able to jump out ahead. They're able to win that game in front of their home crowd. So credit Mike Vrabel for keeping the Titans competitive and for winning that game. Let's talk about a couple more things. I want to talk about the Lions and the... Rob says Chandler Jones has been disappointing. I agree. He's been pretty good in run defense this year. That's been his main responsibility, is to be that strong side edge who sets the edge and plays the run. But I agree. As a pass rusher, he's certainly dwindled. He has not been the same player so far. Hopefully, they can unleash him a little bit. He can play better. Okay, let's talk about the Vikings and the Lions. I've not had a huge opportunity to talk about the Lions so far this year, but I think this was a good game to look at and figure out where they're at and how this team looks. So this is a pure example of the Detroit Lions not knowing how to lead a game. The Detroit Lions are a football team that are figuring out how to win. The Detroit Lions are a football team that are gaining new experiences. They're a growing football team. They're a growing culture. They're a very fun team to watch right now. But being a fun team to watch doesn't necessarily mean you're a good team to watch. Doesn't necessarily mean you're good, period, right? But the Lions could have easily won this game. You know, very much like the Raiders, they could have won this game. Unfortunately, DeAndre Swift looks like out for a little bit with an injury. So hopefully he comes back healthy. Let's go through the games. So Vikings, Lions, big game in the NFC North, potential playoff difference-making game. The Vikings end up winning it 28-24 with a late drive from Kirk Cousins, touchdown to KJ Osborne. Huge, right? The Lions look like the better team for a majority of the day. At the beginning of the game, both kickers missed early on field goals. Early in the game, the Vikings defense was so bad and the Lions were owning them on offense so easily that the Vikings defense was getting booed. They were getting booed off the field on the Lions' second touchdown of the game, which went to TJ Hawkinson. They were getting booed off the field, guys. A Vikings defense that has not been very good this year, was not very good in this game, to be quite honest with you. They did make a couple key stops and key plays, but they were getting booed off the field. And my biggest concern about the Vikings moving forward and why I think they're a good but not great team is their offense has the potential to be very good and very explosive, but their defense just, I don't think it's it. Like, they've got some good players here and there, but they're just not consistent enough. They do not stop the run well enough, and I just don't love their secondary. So the Vikings are a team that I think will make the playoffs. I think they'll probably finish second in their division, but they're like a little bit better than the Lions right now in terms of a version of a team. Like, both teams are mostly offensive teams with not a very good defense. I think the Vikings have a slightly better defense than the Lions do, and a better quarterback. But you look at this game, and the Vikings were struggling early at home. I did think that Kevin O'Connell did a better job of getting Osborne and Thielen involved in this game plan. Justin Jefferson had a very quiet game. There was a 4th and 5 early in the game for the Lions. They decided to be aggressive. They got it. That was huge. That gave them an early lead. They went for 4th and 2 as well, and they didn't get it, I believe. But I think they were going for it early in the game, even in situations where some coaches might punt, and they were kind of telling us what they think of their defense. Like, I think they were, like, Dan Campbell and company were telling us, look, we think this game's going to be a shootout. We need to trust our offense in these situations. We think we have the advantage offensively. We're going to go for it. 4th and 5, 4th and 2. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to go for it. Because our defense is not very good, and we know that. So we're not going to let Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson torch us. We're going to put the ball in our court, and we're going to take it to them. And I loved the approach. They went early, they went often, and they gained the lead because of it, and they could have won the game because of it. So I love it, especially understanding the pre-game analysis of, in your mind, and Michael Lombardi always says this, and he always says, how many points do I need to win this game? What's this matchup going to be? And trying to look at my over-under and dictating how many points do I need to beat the Vikings today. And the Lions, they probably knew they need 30 in the game. And they only got 24, which is why they lost. But they went for it. They tried to go for it, and they got it. They didn't get it, but it was worth it, right? One area that I'm a little concerned about the Vikings offense, I think their run game has been a little subpar in the first 3 games. I expected better out of Kevin O'Connell's offense. I expected better because the Vikings run game, even though they've been heavily, a running team in recent history, they've been good on the ground the last couple years, and I feel like it's taken a step back. Dalvin Cook just doesn't look the same, and now he's also injured, so we'll see how he comes back. I do like Jordan Hicks, how he's played for the team. I think he played really good in this game once again. The Lions were 4 for 5 on 4th down in this game. So again, going back to that, they took it to their opponent. They were 4 for 5 in the early 3rd quarter, and they were playing super aggressive. Josh Reynolds showed up in this game a number of times as another weapon to throw in for Jared Goff. I thought he played a good game. There was a 56-yard field goal try by Minnesota, which I didn't expect him to make it, and he didn't make it. Again, guys, 56-yard field goals, 60-yard field goals, 58-yard field goals, unless you got Justin Tucker, unless you got one of these truly elite kickers that you trust, or you're in, like, Denver, just go for it or punt. Like, that's a turnover. That's a turnover. A 56-yard field goal is a turnover. I'd rather go for it. Right? Dalvin Cook fumbled the ball. He ran right into Ezra Cleveland, his guard, and he fumbled it off his butt. Kind of like that punt block. There were some costly penalties by the Lions late in the game that caused them to come back. I think the Lions, maybe with the personnel that they're playing with on defense, are playing too much man coverage right now, and that's causing a lot of holding, and that's extending a lot of drives by the Vikings and other teams. When it works, right? But I just don't think the Lions have the corners. I don't think they have the personnel to play so much man coverage the way they're playing. This is obviously a heavy, like, Saints-influenced defense, and they play a lot of man coverage in New Orleans, and I just feel like they don't quite have that personnel to be able to do that right now. So that's an area where maybe they want to tweak that, is playing less man coverage, playing less aggressive on defense, maybe playing more zone, just because they just don't have the cover guys out there. They're fairly inconsistent. There was a 4th and 1 at the 29-yard line late in the game that the Lions went for to try to secure the game and try to take the lead and try to win it, and they didn't get it. But I thought that was the correct call. I think some fans will probably criticize that. But at the 29-yard line, 4th and 1, I don't quite recall how much time was left, but I felt like that's a spot where you go for it because they were only up by 3 at the moment. So I thought the call was a good call. I believe it was 24-21 in the game, and they went for it at the 29 of the Vikings, and that was the correct call because And I've understood this because of Madden. So shout out to Madden. But you go for it when you're up by 3 on a 4th and 1 at the 29-yard line of your opponent. I learned this from Madden. I was playing in a Super Bowl in my Madden franchise, in my Loyal to the Game league, and I kicked a field goal on 4th down late in the game. There was like a minute 30 left. I learned this from Madden, guys. My opponent drives down the field, scores a touchdown, wins the game with an extra point. If you have the opportunity up by 3 on 4th and 1 to win the game with your offense, you go for it. You do it. You try to make that a 2-possession game. You try to win the game that way. And the Lions did. They tried. Obviously, they didn't get it, but it was the correct process. It was the correct call. And then the Lions did this. Detroit, with 1:14 left in the game. 1:14 left in the game. No timeouts for the Vikings. Okay? No timeouts for the Vikings. They're up by 3. Once again, 24-21. They're up by 3. No timeouts for the Vikings. They attempt a 54-yard field goal. They miss the field goal. Again, guys, 54-yard field goal. Not an easy kick. Unless you got Graham Gano, it's not an easy kick. Okay? 54-yard field goal is a turnover. A missed field goal is a turnover. It doesn't count on the stats. It's a turnover. 1:14 left in great field position. Remember, 1:14. You don't have any timeouts. If you miss that kick, you get the ball in prime field position, and you don't necessarily need timeouts with 1:14 left. So in that situation, this is where I think Dan Campbell lost his team the game, or whoever makes those decisions, which I assume is the head coach. He lost his team the game. He rather should have punted or went for it. And in my opinion, I probably would have punted it. Because you punt it, you try to pin your team back, the other team back, within the 20-yard line, even a touchback, right? It's a difference of like 30 yards. That's a difference of like 30 yards that a team has to drive in 1:14 with no timeouts, right? I don't think the Vikings score a touchdown with 1:14 with no timeouts, even if they start from their own 15. I don't think they score a touchdown. So that is where they lost the game. That decision to kick the field goal to go up 6 from 54 yards out with not one of the best kickers in the league. If you had Justin Tucker, okay. He makes it 95% of the time. But with an average to below average kicker, which the Lions have, an unproven kicker, which the Lions have, just punt it. Just punt it away. But I like what the Lions have been so far. I like what they've shown so far. I think they're still in the competition to be a playoff team. I think that showed in this game because I think the Vikings are also a playoff team. Okay, we got a few more things to go over, guys. Thank you for sticking and staying up with me late at night. If you haven't already, Gronk spiked the like button. Subscribe to the channel for more NFL. Thank you guys for the support. All right. The Saints. I went back. I watched the Saints-Panthers game. Are the Saints in trouble? Will they reach expectations? Man. I think the Saints are in trouble. I picked the New Orleans Saints to make the playoffs. I picked the Saints to be my number 7 seed. I stated earlier in this show, I should have picked the Dallas Cowboys. I shouldn't have picked the New Orleans Saints. And obviously it came down to the Saints and the Cowboys as my 7 and 8 seed. I picked the Saints. I shouldn't have picked the Saints to make the playoffs. The Saints are now 1-2. The game they won was a miracle come from behind victory that took a Marcus Mariota fumbled snap to win it against a team that we all don't think is very good in the Atlanta Falcons. In week 2, they struggle on offense. They barely score any points. And in week 3, a similar story. Turnovers by the offense. Bad Jameis Winston. Missed kicks, missed field goals. A little fluky, but just dysfunction on the offensive side of the football. And despite great defense, not able to win the game against Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers. This is a team that misses Sean Payton. And Sean Payton's a phenomenal coach, man. He's one of the greatest coaches of this last era. To me, he's the second best coach of this last era. I think you could argue second or third. He's right there with Belichick. He's right there with Andy Reid. He's in the pantheon of great coaches since about 2006. And this team misses Sean Payton in a couple areas. They miss Sean Payton in terms of the confidence and swagger that he brings to a team because, let's be honest, as great of a coach as he is, he can also be a little bit arrogant sometimes, Sean Payton, but that's what kind of gave his team the edge that they had. That's what gave the Saints the bravado that they had. They missed that. They missed Sean Payton for his play calling. Sean Payton was the play caller for many years in New Orleans. And even last year, without Sean Payton, with a very limited cast of wide receivers, of offense, even quarterbacks, Sean Payton, once again, amazing coaching. Finding different trick plays to call at the right time. Game plan plays to call at the right time. And little things and little details and little difference-making calls that changed games and got them wins. And right now we're seeing no sort of game-changing play calls from their offense. No advantages. I didn't see it in the Bucs game. That's where Sean Payton really got the Bucs. Just even in those defensive battles, just one or two plays that was just like, wow, that was a great call. Even in the playoff game where Jameis Winston comes off the bench, throws a trick pass. They were struggling heavily in that game to score points. And they gave him an opportunity to win with Drew Brees looking like a shell of himself, right? Sean Payton is missed. And then Sean Payton is also missed with the relationship between the coach and the quarterback. Sean Payton used to be a quarterback. Sean Payton was a quarterback. Sean Payton's great at coaching quarterbacks. Sean Payton, I truly feel, I'm not there. I'm not in the building. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I do know that Sean Payton was probably, most likely, the guy that reined in Jameis Winston. And over the past couple of weeks, we've seen a Jameis Winston that's resorted to some awful throws, to some highly risky football. And Jameis last year was looking like a developed, matured quarterback because he was willing to take the check down. He was willing to throw it away. He was willing to play conservative. This year, this is still a defensive team. This is a team that could have easily won this game if they don't make mistakes. Jameis is trying to actively lose games right now. And there's no Sean Payton for him to rein it in. Rein it in. Okay? So, man. Jameis Winston, he looks hurt. I get it. He looks hurt. He looks like he's playing hobbled. But, man, this guy's throwing picks. This guy's trying to throw the game away. He's missing people all over the place. He's missing short passes. He's missing deep passes. He's missing intermediate passes. I like Jameis. But, man, Andy Dalton would probably be playing better than this guy right now. And Andy Dalton's the backup. Like, Jameis is missing throws. The reason they lost this game is Jameis was bad. Like, flat out bad in this game. I want him to play better, but if he's hurt, he shouldn't be in the game because he is playing bad football. He's not only missing throws, he's throwing interceptions. He's getting sacked at the wrong time. He's getting sacked to take them out of field goal range for them to punt. Alvin Kamara fumbles, gets stripped for a touchdown. Great play by the Panthers, but you don't expect that from one of your best players. A blocked field goal in the game. You don't expect a Sean Payton team to get a blocked field goal. This isn't a Sean Payton team anymore. They miss a field goal. How often did you see Will Lutz miss field goals? I mean, these things don't happen with a well-coached team the way that they used to be, and those things all happened against Carolina. Carolina wasn't even very good in this game. Baker was, quite frankly, pretty freaking terrible. But the difference between Baker Mayfield and Jameis Winston and the Panthers and the Saints is the Panthers caused a couple turnovers and the Saints didn't, and Baker didn't actually throw the ball to the other team in this game. Baker played pretty conservative. Baker didn't lose the game, and that was the difference. That was the difference last week. Brady didn't make that many more plays than Jameis, maybe a couple, but he didn't lose the game. He didn't throw a pick six, right? So that's what the Saints are right now. And I think they got to get back to the drawing board and say, what are we? What is our identity? How do we need to play? Jameis, I don't know if you're hurt or not, but like, you can't be throwing pick sixes. You can't be throwing the ball to the other team. Throw it away. Play conservative, because our defense is still really good, as they've shown the last 2 weeks. We're still really good on defense. We can win. We can get to the playoffs as an NFC team right now, as a wild card team, if you just play a little bit more conservative. There's a lot of unnecessary deep shots for no reason to nobody. Like, what the hell is that? Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas, they both look a little slow. I mean, they look like turtles. Not turtle, but turtles out there. Chris Olave looks the part, looks like a great pick in the first round. Awesome for my fantasy team, but the only real promising thing coming out of this game offensively, the offensive line isn't what it was. Jameis, hot garbage, and some of the playmakers looking a little bit past their prime. Thomas, Kamara, Landry. So the Saints are the team that I look at right now and I say, I picked them to make the playoffs in the NFC. I think I should have picked the Cowboys. I think I should have. Now, the Panthers. The Panthers weren't very good in this game. They won the game. Christian McCaffrey just doesn't catch passes anymore, I guess. Ben McAdoo just doesn't want to throw him the ball. Baker Mayfield doesn't want to check it down to him for some reason. By the way, McCaffrey looks great running the ball. He had 120 yards in this game. Looked explosive. But, man, throw him the football. That's what he's made for. That's what he does. DJ Moore doesn't catch any passes on this team either. So their two most important weapons, they don't get them the ball. Baker Mayfield looks like he's never practiced or played with any of these players before. I mean, he's throwing in routes to DJ Moore 20 yards over their heads. I mean, what the hell? Like, geez, terrible. Baker has zero chemistry with his teammates. It looks like he's never played a snap with any of these guys. The offensive scheme for Carolina is so vanilla, so boring, so dull. They don't have any catch and run plays. They don't help Baker Mayfield through play action plays, through anything, through screens, really. I mean, this is such a dull team from an offensive standpoint. Their defense played phenomenal. Their special teams played phenomenal. Their offense is really bad. Both these teams are a mirror image of each other. Mirror image. Offenses stink. Defenses are good. Coaching is a bit suspect as well. Discussing the Eagles. So, how legit are the Philadelphia Eagles? Just quickly, the Philadelphia Eagles are absolutely legit. Absolutely a good football team. Absolutely a playoff team. I think they're absolutely the favorite to win their division. How legit are they? That's tough to know right now. They've dominated. They've won thoroughly. Both sides of the ball. Offense, defense. Jalen Hurts looking like an MVP candidate. Absolutely, positively. But they've played the Lions. They've played the Vikings. They've played the Commanders. The Vikings are the best team they played. They won. They dominated. But that was against primetime Kirk Cousins. So you never really know about that one. It was at home as well. So the only thing I want to see from the Eagles, because I already knew they were good. I picked them to win the NFC East. I picked them to go as far as the divisional round. I could see them now that I've seen them on the field to go to the NFC Championship. I really could. I could see them go to the Super Bowl. I could rank them as the best team in the NFC on my power rankings tomorrow. I very well might. But I have yet to see them play an elite team and beat an elite team, or just play with an elite team. I need to see it, because the Eagles aren't the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bucs, the Packers. One of these established teams that's year after year with Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes, Allen, been to the playoffs, competed with good teams, been right there, right? The Eagles are a new team to the scene. So I got to see how they look against a top-notch squad. And there are not many in the NFL, but I would like to see that before I crown them as the Super Bowl representative in the NFC. Now, the Rams and the Cardinals. Not much. This was a pretty boring game, to be honest with you. But a few takeaways, mostly from the Rams. The Cardinals continue to be a mess, specifically offensively. It's just too much on Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's phenomenal talent. Marquise Brown had a huge game. I expect that to continue, but their offensive stuff is just frustrating. Few things from the Rams. Cam Akers looked better. He did fumble at the 1-yard line again, but he looked better. He looked closer to his familiar self. The defense played better in this game than they have all year. Matthew Stafford didn't turn the ball over, which is something that hasn't happened all year. He played good. Cooper Kupp did his Cooper Kupp things. They're starting to get more weapons involved. Tyler Higbee looks healthier. Still quiet on the Allen Robinson front. The Rams also just know how to defend Kyler Murray, and the Cardinals, it just feels like they always have a good pass rush plan for Kyler Murray, how to defend him, how to contain him in the pocket, how to, just not allow him to break the game the way that the Raiders did. Because that's the only way they would have lost this game. The Rams look like, obviously, a well-coached team. Obviously, a team that will be in the mix. But we'll see how they fare against the 49ers. I'm concerned a bit about their offense. I just think it's too Cooper Kupp reliant. I think their run game is a little limited. They played a pretty bad run defense in the Cardinals. If their defense, though, can play better the way they did in this game, more consistently, maybe they can shift more towards a defense-first team. We'll have to see how that develops. And the final subject I want to discuss here is Jacksonville and LA, okay? This week we saw the Jags absolutely, in the shocker of the week, just destroy the Chargers. Like, destroy them in LA. It was like 38-10 or something like that. The Jags look to be for real. The Jags are without a doubt the best team in their division through 3 weeks. Is not even particularly close. They destroyed the Colts. They're going to make the playoffs, in my opinion. Trevor Lawrence, what a difference coaching and a year makes. Christian Kirk, maybe he's underpaid. James Robinson, back from an Achilles like nobody I've ever seen. The offensive line's better. The defense is young, athletic, hungry, and just really talented. But the story to me about this game is, as good as the Jags look and as promising as they look and like the team in their division, the Chargers are in trouble, man. And the Chargers are an extremely talented team, but they're so injured right now. It's quite frankly ridiculous. Like, their quarterback has fractured ribs. Their all-pro center has a knee injury. Their all-pro left tackle is out for the season with a torn bicep. Their number one receiver has a hamstring injury. Their top pass rusher has a groin injury. Their top cornerback is not recovering from ankle surgery. All of their top players, Justin Herbert, Corey Linsley, Rashawn Slater, Keenan Allen, Joey Bosa, J.C. Jackson, all hurt, all in danger of missing multiple games. This team in this division could be really in trouble. And that sucks. Because this team, when they're healthy, look to be an elite squad and look to be a contender. But that's just the Chargers, man. When people say the Charger, they're usually referring to choking of some sort. It's unfortunate to see that happen through injuries. I hope they can come back healthy and be the team that we all think they can be. That is the bottom line. that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. Not over the top, crazy rants, but I hope you got a lot of heart, a lot of analysis here, and a lot of thoughts and opinions. I kept it a little bit more, cool and collected. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And look out for a ton of content this week. Look out for those shorts that will be all over the channel. And don't forget to follow the TikTok. Link is in the description, guys. If you want more exclusive content from me, don't forget to follow, subscribe, whatever it's called, my Patreon. Support me and my journey as a creator. I appreciate all you guys that Gronk spike the like button, that subscribe to the channel, that watch all my videos, that come to the live stream. I'm going to stay here for a couple minutes to talk to you guys just because I love you guys. But please do check out Patreon. Support me there. You can also become a YouTube member. Support me there as well. If you enjoy what I do, that's the best place to support. Okay? Let's go. What's up, Niners? I hope you heard my Niners thoughts, but thanks for joining the chat, bro. Deadly Fins, they also lost Jalen Guyton to a torn ACL. Yes, they did. Big Al says, fly, Eagles fly. If you have any questions right now, I'll stick around for a few minutes for you guys, and I'll answer those questions. Let's just give some shout-outs here to the people that have been in the chat. Rob. What's up? Rob75. What's up, Boss? What's up, Caesar? What's up, Ashton? Big Al. Taryn, what's up? T, what's going on? Is it Tage? Hey, man. Yeah, sure. I'll answer fantasy questions. That's cool. Taryn says, Mitch, are you going to put the timestamps for each game? So, I think so. Unless I'm going to. I just don't know if it's going to be me or if it's going to be Lenny, but I'll figure that out. I will. I have to do that moving forward because obviously this is a very long stream. The only problem is, like, if you guys are always going to be here live, like if one of you are always going to be here live, I would really love it if one of you did it for me because it's really hard. Obviously, I can't do it while I'm doing the show. So it would be easier if somebody that was watching the show did it because then I wouldn't have to go through it all and then figure it out. But yeah, so then the timestamps would be available right away for everybody. But I'll just have to go after the case, like later tonight or tomorrow and then do it. And then it will be up later after the fact, if you understand what I mean. Like, it's just, I can't do it right away, obviously. So that's the problem. That's why I'd prefer somebody that was watching it to do it so then I could just put it in the description, But I'll do it after the fact if nobody is doing it. Bethel says Josh Allen fumbled the snap when he tried to clock it before the half. He didn't try to fake spike. He had to throw it quickly because it wasn't a dead ball. Oh. Okay. Because the announcer called a fake spike. He was like, oh, it's a fake spike. Dan Marino. Which it looked like it was. Tages? Is that right? Jamal Williams or Chris Olave rest of season in PPR? I would go with Olave just because I think Swift will be back at some point. So I would go with Olave there because I think Olave is going to be probably like a wide receiver 2 in fantasy, it looks like. You always want to try to get those young receivers, those rookies specifically when you can get them. So Olave would be my pick. I also think Williams will share snaps with another back, but Williams will be better like short term, in my opinion. Deadly Finn says, do you think the Chiefs will regret giving Tyreek to us rather than the Jets. Yeah, they probably do, but I think the Dolphins just offered more. Am I doing good? I'm doing good, yeah. Thank you. Did you see Ken Dorsey smash his headset? Yeah, that was hilarious. That was so funny. That reminded me of like rage quitting in gaming. Drake London's awesome. I always love Drake London coming out of the draft. I think if you can trade for him, I would get him. Obviously, it depends what for, but Drake London's a stud, man. He's going to be good for a long time as long as he can stay healthy. And I like that Atlanta offense in general. I think that Atlanta offense is deceptively like pretty darn good. Like I think even against good defenses, they can move the football, which that's what you want, man. You want players a part of good offenses, especially if you know they're going to get targets and looks. It feels like London is the most consistent guy or consistent member of that offense. Like he's been better than Pitts so far. Pitts, I've have Pitts in multiple leagues. Like he's been a bust. Like he was good last week, but so far he's been a bust. Hopefully he can bounce back. Niners says Jimmy G is trash. Bet the unders all year on the Niners games. They have a solid defense. Yeah, then I don't know if Jimmy G's trash. Obviously, he didn't play well against the Broncos. But yeah, not unders with the Niners aren't a bad look. I expect Vegas to adjust to that as well, though. But they always have the chance for explosive games because of what they have on offense with Debo and Kittle and stuff. If Jimmy can just look up and see the wide open receivers, I think they'll be fine. Chiefs should have traded for DK Metcalf. I wish the Patriots traded for DK Metcalf. Jeez. Or just picked him in the draft ahead of N'Keal Harry, but they didn't. Who do you think is the worst team? Probably the Texans. I don't think the Texans are like terrible, but they're at least competitive, but they're probably the worst team. Anyone else in here want to ask a question? We got 37 people in here. Thank you guys for watching. Or just say hi. Also, let me know what brought you to the channel. If there was a certain video, I love to hear that. Who's the Pat's backup quarterback? I would assume it would be Brian Hoyer, but it could be Bailey Zappi, the rookie quarterback. I would assume they would go with Brian Hoyer, though. Caesar says, what other nicknames like the Raiders and the Bengals do you got in mind? I like calling the Miami Dolphins the Miami Dolphins because The Rock used to say that all the time. I steal like 90% of my catchphrases from The Rock in wrestling. Taryn says, who do you think is the best team? Is it still the Bills? Yeah, it's the Bills to me. I think you'll see my power rankings tomorrow. I won't give too much away, I guess, but I think I'm not somebody that gets off of my priors easily. Yeah, I agree, Taryn. Niners says, "Aw, man, I lived through the Hoyer experience. Good luck." Yeah. We actually started him in a game in 2020 when Cam Newton had the vid, and it was not pretty. We could have beat the Chiefs in Kansas City that year, and I think Brian Hoyer, like, absolutely was terrible. So, yeah, we lost to the Chiefs by, like, a touchdown, and it was so frustrating because we could have easily beat them in that game. That was annoying. Taryn says, also, why are the Commanders so bad? They have a lot of talent. Yeah, I mean, do they? They've got some talent. Their offense has been kind of hit and miss, inconsistent, as you would expect with Carson Wentz. But they've got plenty of receivers and skill talent, and their offense has mostly been good. It's really their defense. Their defensive coaching, Jack Del Rio, is terrible right now. And they don't do anything creative on defense. They're very easy to prepare for. They're very easy to play against. They don't stress you out. I think it's a combination of the inconsistency of Carson Wentz and the terrible coaching of the defense. Because I don't think the defense is that lacking talent. I think they do have some talent. I don't think they have as much as people think, but they have some talent. They should be better than they are. That's for sure. They shouldn't be as bad as the Lions. I'll just say that on defense, which they are right now. They're bad on defense. If you look at their stats. Who will be the AFC West winners now with the Chargers injured? Probably the Chiefs, but yeah, I don't think the Chiefs are like that good either. Rob says, what do you think the Raiders' record will be by the end with the bad start? Let's look at their schedule real quick. I still want to say they're going to end up with an okay record, but obviously the 0-3 is discouraging. Not only discouraging, but it just hurts the overall outlook of the team. I thought they would at least win one game in the first 3. But I did say, I believe in my record prediction video, which you guys can go back and watch, that they would start 1-2. I thought they would beat the Cardinals and they would lose to the Chargers and the Titans. So at least there's that. But they could beat the Broncos next week. I could see that, but they could also lose, so that's going to be close. They play the Chiefs in Kansas City Monday night, huge game. They should beat the Texans easy. I think they're better than the Saints. The Jags game will be interesting. I think they're better than the Colts. They're better than the Seahawks. They should beat the Broncos once. They should beat the Chiefs once as well. Depends on the Chargers' health later in the year. They play the Patriots at home, the Rams on the road, the Steelers, who they're better than. The 49ers are going to be tough, the Chiefs. I think they could win. I think they're going to win, if I'm being honest, like 8 or 9 games at this point. I think it's going to be tough to get double digits right now, but it depends how much they can turn it around. I think 8 or 9 games is probably most realistic. I think anything less than that would be a disappointing, like if they won like 7, I think it would be disappointing. Deadly Finn says, is it safe to say we clearly overestimated the AFC West? I think we were bound to overestimate the AFC West, as it's just very hard for a division to be that good, like the way that we expected it to be. Niner says, what's your thoughts on Swift and Cook injuries? I don't really know the exact injuries. I know that Swift, I think it was like a high ankle sprain. So I don't really know the details, but just based on like who's behind them. Cook, I didn't think really started the season very, very good. I think Madison has looked just as effective as him running the football. So I don't think that's a huge loss for the Vikings. In terms of Swift, I think Swift's been very good for the most part. He's very, very explosive. I think that's going to hurt the Lions a little, especially in the passing game. Would you take Matt Patricia over Bruce Arians? As a head coach, probably not. As a defensive coordinator, yes. As an offensive coordinator, probably not either. With Bill Belichick, though, I'd probably rather have Matt Patricia. I just think Bruce Arians and Bill Belichick don't match whatsoever. Like, they're the opposite of each other. You didn't get the notification that I was live. Well, that sucks. Sorry to hear that. Maybe make sure your notifications are on, and make sure all notifications are on. Give me your top 7 in the NFC. As of right now, or who I expect it to be by the end of the year? Because that's kind of 2 different questions. But I'll just go with Bucs, Eagles, Niners, Packers, Rams, Vikings. I think that's 5. Or that's 6. And then 7 is probably Dallas. I also like what I've seen from the Lions. Honestly, the Giants maybe? I don't know. The Giants or the Saints are probably like 8. Probably the Giants at 8. Yeah. Yeah, that's a steep drop-off right there. Or no, the Lions are 8. But the Giants are like 9, I should say. Also, Mitch, there's a bit of pressure on Kyle right now. I don't agree with it, but the Niners fans are really angry and calling McDaniel the true offensive genius of the team. Just saying, it's getting bad. Yeah, that happens every year, bro. Like, the guy is the most criticized coach in the NFL, it feels like. I mean, the fan base was blaming him for Trey Lance getting hurt. I know you were as well, but just like the stuff they blame him for is just ridiculous. Like, it's not even good stuff to blame him for. Like, there's other things that are maybe more logical. The Niners will be fine, bro. They'll make the playoffs. I think they'll probably win the division too. I'm totally opposite. They'll figure it out. My segment on tonight's game is like pretty close to the beginning of the video, so I'd check that out. Just go back and rewind, or wait till the full video is up when I'm done. The Rams, I just don't think are that good, if that makes sense. Ultra. I also don't really love what I've seen from Stafford this year. I think for that team to be really good, Stafford's got to be really good. And I just don't know if he's playing like that right now. He's kind of like Stafford's kind of got to carry them. Caesar says Seahawks lost to the Falcons. Finally, the Falcons don't choke. Well, they played the Seahawks. They played the Seahawks. Yeah, they might win the division, but that's not really saying much. I ultimately think people are overreacting to the Niners. I think the Niners are good, and I think the Niners are going to make the playoffs. The Trent Williams injury sucks, but that defense is really good, and they've got too much talent. I also don't think Jimmy's as bad as most people are saying he is. I think a lot of people are underestimating how good the Broncos defense is. Broncos defense is really good. Taryn says, do you think the Colts will put some more wins together and win the division? I don't think so. I think Jacksonville is going to win the division based on today. And I think the Colts will finish second. I think the Colts will be in the running, let's say, but I don't think they're going to be a playoff team based on what I've seen. That includes the game that they played against the Chiefs. I don't know. I don't love their offense right now. Deadly Finn says, which one would you take? Tyreek Hill to your offense or Aaron Donald to your defense? I would rather have Tyreek Hill on my team, personally. I understand Aaron Donald's a great player. I'd rather have Tyreek Hill. Glendale says, Jags got the AFC South locked down. Yeah, feels like it. We got a hey Mitch. What's going on, man? Anything can happen. I'm not saying it's impossible. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. Do I think Trevor Lawrence won't... Do you still believe Trevor Lawrence won't be the generational talent for the Jags? I don't think Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent. I don't think he's going to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play. But I think he's going to be a good quarterback, and I've always said that. So he's playing better this year than I thought he would. That's for sure. Ultra says the Colts got really lucky that the Chiefs' special teams was as bad as they were. I'll say that the defense looked great, though. Maybe they're getting better. Yeah, they're getting better. They have done this the last couple of years where they look like shit in the first 2 games and then they get better. Bacardi Bum says, I just got here. Lamar Jackson is great, but he's kind of the guy that as soon as you guarantee the contract, he gets knocked out with an injury. Well, that's unfair to say. That's just kind of mean, to be honest. Lamar to the Pats in the offseason. Well, I would love that. As I actually wanted, and anybody here, I think Ultra could probably stand by this because nobody else here probably watched the channel back then. But I wanted Lamar in that draft, and they didn't pick him. And they had a chance to pick him, and they didn't pick him. So I think they picked Sony Michel, which was terrible. Sony Michel wasn't bad, but I would have rather had Lamar. Let's just say that. Lawrence is in all likelihood, he won't likely be Peyton Manning. Sorry, Jags fans, but with competent coaching, he'll be good to very good quarterback for 10 plus years. Yeah, I could see him being like maybe even a top 5 quarterback for a couple of years, but I don't think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. That's just a lot. Sorry, Mitch. The Pats are done this year. Yeah, if Mac is out for like 3 or 4 weeks, we're probably done. But honestly, like, if he's able to come back, I don't know, man. Like, I think this team is not that bad. I think we can make the playoffs, to be honest. It depends on Mac's injury, though. You don't have to answer this if you're not comfortable, but thoughts on Brett Favre's scandal. Honestly, I don't really know what's going on with that, so I can't really answer it. I would answer it if I could, but I don't even really know what's going on. I've seen like some of the memes, but I don't really know what's going on. What has Lamar done that other young AFC quarterbacks not named Mahomes done? That is a good point. Flo says Pats are done even with Mac. Flo, I disagree. I thought we played kind of good against the Ravens. What do you think about the Ravens? I kind of think the Ravens are going to go to the AFC ship this year, Flo. What do you think? Ronnie Stanley back. The defense has got to get better, but I don't know. The AFC's kind of not looking what we thought it would. I think the Bills are going to be in there, but I'm not buying Tua in the playoffs. Yeah, your pass rush sucks. Ultra says, Mitch, he stole money from the government to build a volleyball gym. That sounds like a movie. This is the first time I've seen you live. I always watch your videos and your picks and bet choices. Great job, and I hope your channel keeps going. Bacardi Bum, I hope you didn't watch my best bets this week. I don't wish that upon anybody. But thank you for the support. What's going on with Away and Bowser? Tyler Smith is good other than like the headlocks he puts in on DNs like every once in a while. Any other AFC teams? Well, it depends on the Chargers' health. Bengals could still do it, I think. Logan Ryan's been awesome for the Bucs. I love that guy. He's such a great player. What are my top 5 favorite movies? Man, my top 3 staple is like Rocky, Spider-Man 2, Back to the Future. That's usually my top 3. Dark Knight is probably in there. And then 5th, I don't really know. It kind of depends. You could argue a lot of different movies for number 5. But I like a lot of movies, so it's kind of hard. Maybe like meaningful movie. I would say like like Iron Man maybe. It's like pretty meaningful to me, I guess. Like one of those MCU movies. Favre is a Hall of Famer. He's not going to prison. Flo, will Lamar even be on the team next year, bro? I heard he's going to New England. What do you think about that? No, but for real, I think there's going to be a legit convo about that, I think. I think if Lamar doesn't get paid, man, he's going to... I don't know. The Dolphins are sketchy, though, man. They just cheat all the time now. What the hell is up with that? They're like the Patriots. Yeah, Flo, you're going to become a Bucs fan. I play you in Madden, I think, in like 2 weeks. All right. 2 more minutes. I'll be on for 2 more minutes. You guys got any more questions? Winris says, missed your show, Mitch. Do you think it's better for Brady to have a defensive head coach rather than an offensive head coach? It's kind of hard to say, but I think you've got to go with defense just based on what he's done with the defensive head coach. I mean, Belichick won 6 Super Bowls with, so it's kind of hard to say because he only had an offensive head coach for 2 years. But then again, he put up some of his best numbers with an offensive head coach, offensive-minded head coach. I would say for the Bucs, though, I think Bowles has been a better head coach so far this year than Arians was, and it's only been 3 games, just based on his decision-making for the vision of the team, because I think Bowles would have set up the team to beat teams like the Rams better than Arians' teams were just too loose, and like their details sucked, and they took too many penalties. Like, Arians was just overrated in general, so I'm not a huge fan, but I do think, like, they need to be more of an offensive team right now than they're being. They're not letting Brady be Brady right now. They're playing in a shell. They're running the ball too much on early downs. They're not letting him throw the ball. I understand they don't have players, but, like, you got Tom fucking Brady. Like, he's been pretty good with pretty bad receivers before. And it doesn't help if you just run the ball for no yards on first down. It's going to be 3rd and 9 every time. So it just hurts your team. I explained that earlier in the video, but like, I wish that Bowles would loosen up a little bit. I understand he wants to play a defensive game, and I think it will help once they get their weapons back. But I wish they would loosen up a little bit. What happens to the Bucs after Brady retires? I think that they kind of have a changed bravado, and like, I think they'll be relevant for a couple more years after that because I think they still got a good roster and they're still going to be in the general consciousness of the NFL. And I think a quarterback will go there that's pretty good. And I think they'll still be competitive. But long term, I'm not quite sure they'll be great just because, I don't know, it's hard. Alec Pierce is talented, man. Pay Lamar after we beat the Bucs. We'll see. That game's going to be good. I don't know when that game is. Hopefully both teams are healthy for that game. I think it's on Thursday night, but I don't know what week it is. What happened to the Chiefs and the Bills? I explained it in the video. The Chiefs, worried more so about them than the Bills. October 27th. Okay, that's a month away. Yeah, that'll be a good game. Are you going to that game? I think it's in Tampa, right? Niners have no capital to trade for Lamar. Oh, Lamar with Shanahan would be... Stop it. That would be stupid. Oh, that's nice. You guys gonna have a hurricane over there? Alec Pierce is a beast, man. I think he can play. Thoughts on Justin Fields? Discouraging so far this year in terms of what he's doing, but also like what they're allowing him to do. It feels like they don't trust him at all to throw the ball or make plays that way. And oftentimes when he does, he's still very like first read. If it's not there, he just runs. Like he's like a one read and run quarterback right now. And it's the worries I had coming out of college because I wasn't huge on him coming out of college. Just because mentally he doesn't really process defense as well. He is probably better like throwing the football, like mechanically better than I thought he was. Like I thought he was kind of flawed coming out of Ohio State, but I think he has talent and the guy is fast and he can make plays as a runner, but I don't know, man. He's just not. The team sucks. The offensive line sucks. But also the situation, like they don't trust him. So it's tough. It's really hard to evaluate him. I'm kind of confused why they're doing what they're doing because it doesn't. They know they suck. Like they must know they suck. You can't have this young quarterback and not try to evaluate the guy because then you're just going to be stuck in the same situation next year. Lamar is a free agent if he doesn't sign with the Ravens yet, but I think he will sign with the Ravens, but that's ultimately going to be his decision because he could probably get a bunch of money from somewhere else too. I think he'll sign with the Ravens. All right, guys. I think that's it for me. It's been a late one. It's been a long one. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to Gronk spike the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching. We will see you tomorrow. My power rankings will also be live tomorrow, I believe. I think I'll be live for that. Either way, my power rankings will be out tomorrow. And we're going to try to do better on best bets this week because it was shit. So we're going to do better on best bets. But we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Peace.